I pledge allegiance
Time of the meeting is 5:30 p.m.
Mr. McGuckin, the open public meeting statement.
Pursuant to the provisions of the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by sending notice of the meeting to the official newspapers of Plumsted Township and by publishing on the bulletin board in the municipal building.
This time I would turn it over to Mr. Brock.
Roll call.
Ms. Crispin.
Here.
Ms. Kimmick. Mr. Ruppel is excused. Vice Chairman Grasso.
Here.
Chairman Kubio.
Present.
Mr. Chairman, in addition, in accordance with the provisions of NJSA 40:14B-23, there's a public hearing regarding the Plumsted Municipal Utilities Authority's weight and trash rates. Notice of this meeting was properly established through the Asbury Park Press, and the board has jurisdiction to proceed this evening. Thank you. At this point, we're going to go through a number of exhibits. Exhibit number 1 is the affidavit certifying to publication of the hearing notice in the Asbury Park Press, published December 12th, 2024. Exhibit number 2 is an affidavit certifying to publication of the hearing notice in the Trenton Times, published December 13th, 2024. Exhibit number 3, correspondence notifying the Plumsted Township Clerk of the public hearing dated December 12th, 2024. Exhibit number 4, PMUA 2024 Trash and Recycling Bill Code Listing from Edmonds, dated January 3rd, 2025. Exhibit 5, PMUA 2024 Sewer Bill Code Listing from Edmonds, dated January 3rd, 2025. Exhibit number 6, excerpt from Waste Management Contract Proposal, which is undated. Exhibit number 7, excerpt Plumsted PMUA 2025 Budget Detail with existing rates and no subsidy, undated. Exhibit 8, excerpt from NJSA 40:14B-23, the Municipal and County Utilities Authorities Law, which is undated. Exhibit number 9, excerpt from NJSA 40A:5A-11, the Local Authority Fiscal Control Law, undated. Exhibit 10, Borough of Lakehurst PMUA Cash Flow Projection Letter, dated November 4th, 2024. Exhibit 11, Holman, Frayne and Allison, PC, Draft FY 2023 PMUA Audit Concerns Letter, dated November 6th, 2024.
And at this point, we're going to ask Brian Waldron from Holman, Frayne and Allison to give us a quick synopsis of what that correspondence was about.
Thank you. Brian, is it the increased liabilities? I can't see the screen. I just want to make sure I'm the correct one.
Yes, correct.
Okay. In a letter dated November 6, 2024, we have stated the increased liabilities, the outstanding liabilities associated with the previous management company, executive director, and operation fees are significant, extremely significant, and without a viable strategy to service these liabilities, the authority cannot make such payments. The second point, declining financial position. The authority's unrestricted net position, which is necessary to ensure financial stability, has been significantly reduced to an approximate negative $813,000.
Exhibit number 12, Suppley, Cooney and Company, LLC, review a preliminary PMUA 2025 budget letter dated November 8th, 2024.
And we'd like to read into the record, Suppley, Clooney and Company is the authority's consulting accountant. And the second to last paragraph, based on our review, we believe that the operating budget for 2025 and the user charge rate being proposed are reasonable and fair in order to achieve a balanced budget and meet the state of New Jersey's requirements for an operating budget that is in compliance with state regulations. And that was signed by Robert J. Villa, partner, CPA.
Exhibit number 13, DCA Local Assistance Bureau Review and Report of Preliminary PMUA 2025 Budget, dated December 10th, 2024.
In addition to having the consultant accountant review the budget and the auditor, we also requested that Department of Community Affairs take a look at the proposed preliminary 2025 budget. In this memo dated December 10th, 2024, I want to read the results and findings into the record. After a thorough review, it is my position that the 2025 PMUA budget and related supporting schedules as prepared and submitted by PMUA management, which collectively comprise the authority's budget, present fairly in all respects the funds needed to support the operations of the authority and provides more than sufficient detail in its request for a 2025 sewer user rate adjustment. The scale of the requested adjustment plus 128% is noted, but it is determined and agreed to in the context that the current sewer use rate was significantly deficient for revenues to meet expenditures. And the memo was prepared by Bernard Bujak from the Department of Community Affairs, Local Assistance Bureau.
Exhibit number 14, PMUA Request to Plumsted Township for consideration of a 2025 subsidy authorization, dated October 16th, 2024. Exhibit number 15, Plumsted Township Resolution 2024-327, authorizing the township to subsidize the PMUA $500,000 to offset the financial burden on PMUA sewer ratepayers for calendar year 2025, dated November 14th, 2024. Mr. Chairman, at this time, I would move that these exhibits be placed in the record as the official evidence that the board has received as of this juncture in the hearing.
Do I have a motion to place them in the record?
I'll make the motion.
Vice President Grasso made the motion. Commissioner Chrisman seconded it.
Ms. Chrisman. Ms.
Oh.
Chrisman.
Yes.
Ms. Kimmick.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Grasso.
Yes.
Chairman Kubiel.
Yes.
Okay, so next on the agenda, and thank you everybody for coming tonight. We know nobody really wants to be here for this, but we have to present and represent very fairly exactly what the Plumsted MUA is proposing. So this is the public hearing for PMUA 2025 trash and sewer rates. Just to reiterate what was already entered into the record, NJSA 40:14B-23, that is the statute, the law that provides jurisdiction for the PMUA to conduct this public hearing. What we're going to do tonight is give you an overview of where the MUA is right now. We're going to speak a little bit more than just to the rates. We're going to give you some context of how we got here and the whole situation. We're going to ask for decorum and respect from the audience. We will provide that in return to you. I don't think that would be an issue. Again, overview and context. And the whole purpose of the beginning overview is to kind of substantiate where the MUA is as we enter calendar year 25. At the end of the meeting, this is not like a township ordinance. There's a resolution. Action will be taken, and that action is final. So we have a resolution on the agenda to raise the rates, which will be detailed in the presentation. Once that action is taken, that's final. I wanted to provide a little bit of overview of our board expertise. I've been involved with a number of boards in my career, and this board in particular has over 120 years in wastewater specific experience. It's a really, really experienced board in its niche field. There's over 140 years of public agency experience. not only working for public agencies, but active in township committees and other like government entities. And I think there's over 75 years of Plumsted citizenship, so that everybody on the board right now is a citizen of Plumsted, and they have been for some time. Just to provide some context, very high level, again, the Plumsted MUA is governed by laws and regulations. NJSA 40:14B-1 is known as the Municipal and County Utilities Authorities Law. That is what governs us. Within that, NJSA 40:14B-23, it is law that revenues of the municipal authority will at all times be adequate to pay the expenses of operation and maintenance of the utility. Throughout this presentation, I'm going to pop this slide up there a couple times because everything comes back to this. Revenues need to meet expenditures. You cannot run a deficit. As of fiscal year 22, so as of June 30th, 2022, moving into fiscal year 23, the PMUA was already failed. We were already in a significant hole. The PMUA board, as well as the township, which I'll detail, have brought the utility back from the brink. This was one of the exhibits entered into evidence from Holman Freeney and Allison. Brian detailed points number 1 and 2, but I wanted to read the last paragraph of the letter from Holman because I think it's really important to understand where we are right now. These issues pose a direct threat not only to the fiscal health of the authority, but also to its operational viability and ability to meet the needs of its customers. With the current financial outlook, there are growing concerns about the authority's capacity to fund necessary infrastructure projects or even maintain current services. Additionally, the possibility of service disruptions or increased rates to cover operational deficits cannot be ruled out. That's not a very good position to find ourselves in. Since July 1st of 2023, I do want to detail that the Township Committee, Plumsted Township, has been very responsive to all of our needs. In the past year and a half, the town's committed $4 million to this authority outside of the budget. Okay, we have about 1,000 billing units. Had that money not been covered by the township, that's about, what, $4,000 per unit. The township has continually committed significant resources to the authority, and I think that you have to recognize that. The other thing is you can only ask for so much. The town can only do so much for this utility authority, and that's why we find ourselves where we are today. As we go through the slideshow and we look at the budget, it's also important to understand that the vast majority, if not all of the PMUA budget is not discretionary. We don't have funds in here for a parade or fireworks or discretionary type spending items. It's electricity, operators, sludge removal, chemicals, things that you cannot do without in order to meet the absolutely stringent permit that we have from the DEP to discharge to the Crosswicks Creek. That being said, we also handle trash in town. And I don't know if many people understand, the town's broken into two halves for trash. You have everybody east and on Pinehurst Road, and then everybody west. So we are going to talk a little bit about trash. I don't think trash is the main reason why people are here. We know the service is suspect at times. We're working on it. The main reason people are here is for the sewer system. And I wanted to give a little bit of a graphic of exactly what, when we talk about the sewer system, what we're talking about. So Plumsted as a whole is vastly without sewer. The sewer is in that southwest quadrant in the downtown area. So this is a map of the sewer system. The green area represents properties that are in what we call the sewer service area that may or may not have sewer service because we only constructed phase 1 of the sewer. Every property fronting the red there is manholes and pipelines. So I would say about 60% of the sewer service area is currently serviced right now. We have the Lennar venue at Longview, which pumps over to Evergreen Road. Everything outside, including Lennar, flows to the Evergreen pump station. There's a pressure force main that goes up Evergreen Road to the treatment plant, the big red barn that's on 537. So I think it's important, to have this discussion tonight that at least you know what we're talking about and kind of get it. It's good to see a map because when people say, the sewer system, it's a very small portion of town. And even that portion, which is within the sewer service area, is limited, which is part of our problem. There's also been talk going on that the MUA is not regulated, and I wanted to address that for a little bit because not only are we regulated, we're regulated by a number of entities, including the US EPA, Delaware River Basin Commission. Does anybody know Crosswicks Creek, where that ends up? Delaware River. Delaware River is a very, very regulated waterway. The Delaware River Basin Commission thinks that the Delaware River should be fishable and swimmable from Trenton to Philadelphia. So that's what you're dealing with, and that's what your plant is constructed to deal with. New NJDEP, I mean, they issued our discharge permit, and there's various other programs, air permits, you name it, we're regulated all over the place by the DEP. New Jersey DCA for budget and audit approval, PIASH for safety, Municipal and County Utilities Authority law, local authorities fiscal control law, local public contracts law, license operators rules and regulations, and the list goes on. But what I want to try to impress upon people is that regulations cost money. We have a lot of regulations, laws, regulations, statutes, and requirements that all add up to where we are. And again, just a gentle reminder, revenues need to meet expenditures. So we know we have a problem, and we've been very vocal about this problem, especially in the past year and a half. So I wanted to highlight everybody we've been collaborating with. We're not doing this in a vacuum. We have been engaging Plumsted Township every day, state representatives. District 12 has been fantastic. I can't say enough about Assemblyman Sawicki and his people, and it's even outside of District 12. People are interested in helping us out. Ocean County Commissioners, Ocean County Planning Department, community groups, US EPA, USDA we've reached out to see if they have any funding for their various programs, rural development programs, NJDEP, the New Jersey Infrastructure Bank, which gave the town the loan for the initial sewer system. They've been very engaged. New Jersey DCA, you can see from the memo that we got from them, they don't typically provide those types of correspondences, but they're very concerned with our situation. The Ocean County Utilities Authority and the Division of Rate Counsel, who's also concerned. The Division of Rate Counsel is looking out for your interests, so they're concerned with why things are the way they are, and they have been a good partner, and we're sharing ideas with them. So we're going to get into the costs in a second, but before we get there, I just need to elaborate a little bit more on what's driving our costs so high with this authority. Number one is the Delaware River Basin Commission and the DEP. Surface water discharge to the Crosswicks Creek. This was the first surface water discharge treatment plant in over 30 years that was approved in the state of New Jersey. The reason why nobody really builds them is because of anti-degradation effluent limits. The water you're putting into that creek is essentially almost drinkable and far exceeds the quality that's in the creek already. Costs money. Licensure requirements for licensed operators. In the state of New Jersey, like a lot of these trades, electricals, plumbers, everybody knows that there's a shortage of talent. It's no different with licensed operators in the water and wastewater industry. This plant, although very small, requires S3 licensure, which requires 35 hours a week of an S3 license, which is the second highest license you can have in the state of New Jersey, which drives up operational costs. Even though the plant is automatic and programmed, you have to have a physical person there, at least for 35 hours a week with an S3 license, which are not easy to find and they're not cheap either. And typically you have one or two people besides that for confined space entry purposes. There are staffing requirements, not only operationally, but administratively. You have to have a billing system, you have to have somebody to answer the phones, somebody like me to help with the administration function of the authority. Whether you have 1,000 users or 1,000,000 users, there's a minimum requirement. It's kind of like I lived in Englishtown. We had a police department with 8 cops. Because if you have a police department, people go on vacation, they have babies, they're not there, this life happens. There's a minimum requirement, and it all leads to a lack of an economy of scale, is our biggest problem right now. Now, the problem with the economy of scale is that it's not easy, or I should say, it takes time to address that. Yes, we can all sit here and say we want to add 2,000 connections. We can do it. How much time is it going to take? And that's why we find ourselves in the position that we're in today. Real quick too, and I keep going back to the permit that was issued by the state, and I want to do a comparison to a couple utilities, because I know tonight we're going to hear about other utilities, and I want to make my argument why the PMUA is one of one. You can compare yourself to other utilities, but you are not like other utilities for a number of reasons. One of the biggest reasons is the regulations and the limit of technology treatment plant that was constructed. So typically with wastewater, there's 3 different ways you can discharge. You can discharge to a stream, which is surface water. You can discharge to the ocean, which the Ocean County Utility Authorities does. or you discharge your groundwater like a septic system. You can inject it into wells. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to compare the PMUA to two other authorities, and I got this information directly from their Egypt's permit with the DEP. The first one is Western Monmouth Utilities Authority. They are a stringent permit. Before the PMUA was constructed, you would look at the WMUA and go, wow, that's a tough permit. They discharge, I believe, to the Pine Brook. It's a surface water discharge that's used for drinking water somewhere in its life cycle. I also felt it was appropriate, being that we're in Ocean County, we'll compare you to OCUA. So my full-time job, I'm director at the Manasquan River Regional Sewer Authority in Howell. We convey to OCUA, they treat it in brick and dump it a mile off the coastline of Manahawkin. Typically, if you ever heard the old expression, dilution is the solution, when you're an ocean discharger, your parameters are not as stringent. So we have Plumsted, we have Western Monmouth, we have OCUA. The two constituents that I want to focus most on are nitrates and phosphorus, because those are what drive technology in a plant. Even if everything else was equal, when you have a phosphorus limit of 0.1 parts per million, that's going to drive everything that's in that plant, and that's what happened to you. You're a membrane plant. And if you look at Western Monmouth, which is a stringent permit, they don't even have a limit. OCUA doesn't have a limit. OCUA doesn't even have an ammonia limit. Phosphorus 0.1, again, Western Monmouth has nothing. OCUA has nothing. We have 0.1. You don't meet 0.1, you get fined. So it's a problem. It really is. And I think it's also, as many problems as we do have, there is hope. I mean, if anybody wants to go for a tour of the treatment plant, we're almost at the time now where we can start considering some public tours. There are health and public safety hazards that I've been hesitant of, but when you go into this plant, here's what it looks like when the wastewater is coming in, here's what it looks like when it's coming out. I mean, it's absolutely amazing if you go to this treatment plant and you look what it's doing day in and day out. And not only does it look good, if I go back to those limits that I throw up here, nitrate of 5 parts per million, ammonia of 2 parts per million, phosphorus of 0.1 parts per million, those are safe drinking water quality standards. I don't know if I would drink that, but you probably could and you wouldn't get sick. So that is what you're doing. You're taking wastewater and turning it into almost potable water. It's amazing, but it costs money. Again, Plumsted MUA is one of one. There's nobody else in this area, maybe even in the state in your situation. There are membrane plants, but nothing that's quite like Plumsted. So before we get into the sewer, real quick, just to go on the record, I want to talk about trash. Trash, we have about estimated 1,250 accounts in the 2025 budget. 100% of our revenue from trash comes from user fees. We're estimating about $547,000 a year next year in 2025 with no changes. If we did not touch a thing to the trash program, we're going to lose $52,000 on that side of things. So what do? We take the 547 divided by the number of counts. For one trash can and one recycling can, we're at 110 a quarter. That's what it is. And if we go back to that breakdown, the nice thing about the trash program is that we take our soft costs and distribute it to the trash program. So the trash program is actually contributing over $47,000 to the function of the authority. If we didn't have trash, that would be picked up by the sewer function. Because we get that question a lot, why do we have the trash program? That's one of the reasons. So for 2025, in the resolution that will be voted on later, the trash rates are proposed for one trash and one recycling can, 110 a quarter, up from the current 100. For an additional trash can, it's additional $25 a quarter. For an additional recycling can, it's additional $15 a quarter. And for recycling only, it's $50 a quarter. And the 2025 rates are in orange, the existing rates are in gray. So trash, pretty simple. Sewer, different story. So sewer, all these numbers are as of November 30th. As of November 30th, there were 894 connections. But what I want you to focus on is the number at the top here. Equivalent service units, essentially billing units. So although you have 894 connections, we've appropriated 969 billing units to the system as of November 30th. Of those connections, so what do we have? We had 969 ESUs. 53 or 5.5% of them would be what I would consider non-residential, which is multifamily units, commercial units, and a couple public buildings. So by and large, this service territory is 94.5% residential. which is fine. That's just the makeup of the territory. It's small, but you are a residential service territory by and large. To think that you can take the burden of the rates and put it on those 31 connections, it's just not really practical in all senses. We can do better. We're going to do a review of the billing system, but for all intents and purposes, this is a residential system. Of that, because this question comes up a lot, Lennar makes up 47% of the connections and 43.4% of the billing. So that means Lennar's 43.4% of the billing. We have what, 56.6% of everything outside of Lennar, just to give you a breakdown. Okay, so it's like 43 to 56. Getting into financials, Lennar is building out. We do have properties that haven't connected that probably will connect in 2025. To make things nice and easy, we're estimating next year, on average, we're going to have 1,000 billing units for 2025 for sewer. So we're going to go from 969 to 1,000. A little bit of growth. In the 2025 budget, 98.4% of our revenue comes from user fees. We don't have a lot of mechanism for, and this is absent a township subsidy. Absent any township subsidy, 98.4% of our revenue is estimated to come from user fees. It's essentially the only revenue we have. We have some connection fees from Lennar, which aren't going to be there. We have some properties we're estimating are connecting just miscellaneous revenue of like net $30,000 a year. Every other cent comes from user fees. So you're a residential territory, 98.4% of your revenue comes from user fees. The costs fall on the ratepayers. In calendar year 2025, we're estimating or proposing a budget of $1.9 million to run the sewer portion of the utility, which I want to point out includes $0 in debt service because Plumsted Township picks up all of our debt service up to this point. But it's also important to include that in here because if we ever do need to expand the system on our dime, that zero number is going to go up somewhere different than zero. With no changes, if we kept the sewer billings at $70 a month per billing unit, the MUA is projected to lose $1.05 million. And that's the problem we have with revenues of the municipal utility authority would at all times be adequate to pay the expenses and operation of the utility. This is where our problem lies. We're projecting a $1 million deficit. Absent a township subsidy, if you take the $1.8 million, so net of the $30,000 we think that we're getting elsewhere, the net levy on the system for 2025 is $1.884 million that we need to collect from our billing units. Divide that by 1,000, the actual cost of providing service is $160 a month. So that's high, and we recognize that. This is what the math tells us, and this is what we've been discussing with the township since I've been here in my tenure. We knew 70 was too low. We didn't know how high the number was. Now that we've wrangled everything, we're at $160 a month of actual cost to provide the service to each billing unit. Now, the township has committed to a $500,000 subsidy. With that $500,000 subsidy, the revenue we need to raise from our billing units goes from 1.884 to 1.384. Divide that by 1,000 ESUs, we are at the proposed subsidized rate of $120 a month. 1.384 divided by 1,000 divided by 12 is $120 a month with a $500,000 subsidy from Plumsted Township. So, in the rate resolution that we're voting on tonight, the sewer rate is proposed to go from $70 a month to $120 a month. That is the reason why. And the reasons why. So at this point, I don't think we have any comments from the commissioners. What I want to do is this. We're going to open it up to public comment. And Sebastian, I believe you're going to go first. Jeff, you're going to go second. I'm going to move this microphone up here. And what I would ask is, we have we're recording the meeting video and audio. If everybody could just please be respectful. One person speaking at a time. Commissioners, when you respond, just make sure you're talking into a microphone.
Additionally, when you come to the microphone, please state your name and address for the record.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah.
supported by extensive exhibits, which was signed by over 500 residents, 500 ratepayers, was presented to the office of the PMUA on that date. And I do want to acknowledge that the board and the executive director have investigated most, if not all, of those concerns at that time. Today, I present with a series of additional statements and questions that were formulated since the time of the previously scheduled rate hearing, which was subsequently postponed and rescheduled for today. Now, our executive director, Brian, went over a lot of this already, so bear with me. So I'm gonna have some questions and statements, and I guess it's easier to just wait till I finish the detail. First of all, can the PMUA receive funds, subsidy, indirectly from the township's Power Program account? So that's a separate account that the town has. I believe the answer is yes, and let me explain why. All the township has to do is adopt a resolution appropriating such needed requested funds in its budget. This leads to my next statement. The township committee passed the amended resolution, which the executive director just showed, on November 14, 2024. That was resolution 2024-327. It authorized the township to subsidize the PMUA for $500,000 to partially offset the proposed rate increase in the PMUA's 2025 calendar year budget. Now, at the last second, that resolution was amended literally at the last second, and that amended part removed section 2, and you can see it was crossed out, which provided the certification of availability of such funds. So that's a question. Now, my question now is, how have those funds been certified as of 4 p.m. today? And answer everything at the end. Now, to the best of my knowledge, they have not. Because as of 7 p.m. on Thursday, January 2nd, 2025, again, to the best of my knowledge, they have not been certified. I was personally at the township committee reorganization meeting on that evening, and during the public comment session, the resident asked if the funds were certified and distributed to the PMUA. To which Mayor Robert Bowen replied, "I don't know. I will have to get back to you on that." Now, bear in mind, at that same evening, the township committee adopted their temporary budget. That same evening. Additionally, has the PMUA received any information from the township regarding the township's temporary budget that was adopted that evening? Next, please state for the public what installment dates and amounts the PMUA requested of the township for this anticipated subsidy. I know it's out there publicly, but just state it again for the public, the installments that you were requesting. Yeah, one minute. This question you may not be able to answer, but I'm not sure if when the resolution was passed, 2024-327 was passed by the committee in 2024. Does it become null and void, being that it wasn't implemented by the end of the year 2024? Because different municipalities have different local ordinances determining that if it expires or it doesn't expire within a certain period of time. So you may not have the answer for me, but we'll have to find out. So do you know if the current township committee must write and adopt a new resolution for the subsidy in 2025? And then last but not least, I want to discuss the initial rate hearing for the sewers that was in June 15th, 2021. It struck the initial rate of $70 a month. And again, I want to acknowledge the public that none of the current sitting board members of the PMUA or its current executive director were present at that hearing, nor were they involved in any capacity with setting the rate. I'm going to read directly from the minutes of the June 15, 2021 PMUA meeting, which the meeting minutes contains the official transcript from that rate hearing. There's a gentleman, Chairman Bronson, who's speaking, so I'm going to read exactly from the official notes. So speaking of the budget workshop leading up to the rate, he says, it outlines the expenses and anticipated revenues from now through the 2029 and 2030 period, 10 years. Again, this is Chairman Bronson. We are anticipating almost $500,000 in 21-22 year expenses that will go up to $742,000 in the 22-23 year. We're anticipating a 3% escalation in expenses per year after that. Next, the chairman at the time states, this is what he stated: because we don't understand or don't have a solid estimate of what those expenses would be, we are building in a 10% contingency in the first 3 years to build up a little bit of cash. He further goes on to say, our revenues are anticipated in the year 21-22 to be about $319,000, going up to $616,000 in 22-23. And then it will gradually go up in small amounts. And then our executive director just brought up New Jersey Statute 40A:5A-11, which states that no authority budget shall be adopted until the director approves it, and in granting his approval, the director shall consider whether or not all estimates of revenue are reasonable, accurate, and correctly stated. Again, at the time, it says we don't understand. So I don't know how they approved the budget in the $70 monthly rate at that time. It's beyond me. I'm going back to the hearing then. The chairman states, we are getting some startup assistance from the township, $250,000 a year, until we get everybody up and operational and contributing to the operation and maintenance of the sewer system and the wastewater treatment plant. Until. Next, he states, projecting out our expenses and revenues over a 10-year period, we are currently anticipating a monthly fee of $70 per resident, per residential unit or equivalent. Businesses, multifamily homes will be adjusted based on the equivalent flow to a residential unit, and our engineer will calculate that flow. Again, Chairman at the time goes on to state, as things proceed forward over the next year, we will be able to bring this rate down, and that we made it conservative enough that it will not go up. And there's a motion made to accept the rate. The motion was seconded. They did a roll call, and the rate of $70 a month was approved 6-0. Ladies and gentlemen, that's where we sit today. Thank you.
Mr. Brock, could you answer Mr. Sebastian's questions, please?
What I'll do is I'll address a couple of the questions just for the record. That the resolution 327 approved by the township did not have a certification of funds. However, we have nothing in writing. I don't have a worry in the world. This township, time and time again, has stepped in and done the right thing for the ratepayers. There's no doubt in my mind. Absent that certification, which I've been told verbally is coming, I think the $500,000, I would make the recommendation to the board that you consider it in the rate adjustment. I guess would be my recommendation. As far as, I really can't speak to, a hearing that was held in 2021. Even that budget in 2021, if I took a look at it right now, I could probably poke holes in it, obviously, with where we are today. I do want to make one clarification that the statute, when it says that it won't be finally adopted until the director shall have approved the same, they're talking about the director of the DCA or the DLGS, not the executive director. And for the most part, the state is trusting the judgment of the professionals that submit those budgets. But other than that, obviously, we would disagree with what went on in 2021 and what was said and what was certified.
Mr. Brock, the one question that I don't think we answered is the question about when the payments are due.
Okay, so the payments, what we did with the township was we tried to align it with the tax schedule. So we requested that the payments be broken into 4. So $125,000 a quarter, with the first payment due by February 28th, the second payment due by May 31st, by August 31st, and then by December 31st for cash flow purposes. The reason we did that is it's not like the township's flush with cash either, and I think we all understand that, and we know that this is a big ask. So, we're working the best we can with the town to help subsidize the rates.
Mr. London.
Jeff London, 20 Saratoga. I do appreciate all the hard work that you guys are putting into this, and Happy New Year. I know it's a difficult task for everybody. I'm a big picture guy, so I don't know all the details of the redevelopment plan or how the pilot funds are coined, what basket they go into the township. But because I'm a big picture guy, I look at the pilot program and all those funds that we're paying out at venue. You guys hear me? Yeah. All right, good. So because I'm a big picture guy, I look at not only ratepayers trying to support the operation of the PMUA, I look at the pilot funds. And our pilot funds, based on my assumptions, closings in here, and how many houses closed out of Lennar venue for 2024, 403 units. And with Lennar's contribution of 19.5, assuming that permits are pulled in the same year that the CO was issued, I know there's a timing difference, but I've got $4 million for 2024. Because I'm a big picture guy, if that money comes into the township and the bond payments, I think it's $32 million in bonds, some are zero interest, some are 6%. Some of that information is not easily obtainable when I did my projections, but that's a $2.5 million bond payment. Any money that's still sitting in that pilot bucket, the way I look at it, that should be supporting the sewer plant, because the pilot program is based on the fact that we built that sewer plant because of the pilot payments. I believe that's the way it was structured, and maybe you guys can clarify that. But I believe that's the way it's supposed to work. Like I said, I'm a big picture guy, so I don't look at, it's funny because Brian said that our PMUA is different than other PMUAs. You're right, it absolutely is, because we've got this pilot program. And the people at venue are paying half boat, all right, for 5 years. Now, if we think 2025 is bad, 2026 is going to be worse, because how much money are we getting from Lennar in 2026? Nothing, because they're going to close out all their units by the second quarter of this year. They're going to be sold. They got, I think, 28 on the books now and another 21 to be sold. So the first units that were sold in March of 2021, like 65 units were sold in 2021. Those people start to go full boat halfway through the year. So in 2026, there's not going to be as much revenue coming in because Lennar's not paying it, and nobody's going full boat except for maybe half the units that are sold in 2021. And so it rolls out. But it gets better as you go through 2027, 2028, and everybody starts to go full boat. That works great. One thing that I think you might want to do, if you could look at tax anticipation notes, I don't know if the township can issue those. I think it's something that should be done. But I think we need to look at pilot and PMU together, because it is together. If we're going to survive just on ratepayers and trying to get 1,500 connections, it doesn't work. The numbers, we know the numbers don't work. So like I said, I'm a big picture guy. I think we've got to look at the pilot funds along with the ratepayers and try to get that solved. So thank you.
Mr. London, I appreciate your comments. I don't disagree with it. However, the pilot monies is solely under the Township Committee's control. I'm sure that's where we're getting part of the money from, but I believe Brian's been in contact with them numerous times over issues.
Yeah, so the pilot funds go directly to the township. I think Mr. London understands that. I'll just speak to a couple things. For our budget, for our purposes, we're assuming about $19,800 in revenue from Lennar connections. So you're correct. In 2026, when there's no more houses, that $20,000 comes off the books. It's not, I don't know where the $19,500 is, what the number is, where the money goes. We don't see that. We see $330 for every connection. So although we're losing it, it's not like $1 million. It's $20,000. We are losing it. The pilot funds, I think that's more of a matter of principle. Pilot.
It is a matter of principle.
Yeah.
I absolutely agree with you. That's why I said I'm a big picture guy. Yeah, sorry.
No, I don't disagree, and those are just discussions we have to have with the town. I mean, the pilot funds were not meant just for sewer; they were meant for the benefit of the town as a whole. I'll call it, although I don't know if we could use the term taxpayer money, but it's the town, the money goes to the township, it goes in their coffers. It's something we'll have to discuss. I don't know what the modeling looks like. We're not privy to that. You know, we are a separate entity. Our finances are completely separate, but we hear you.
So let me just add, so my opinion and my position is that pilot fund monies, all of it, should go to pay the bonds first, and then any deficit that the PMUA has to make the ratepayers easier on the ratepayers, that money should go to the PMUA, and not for anything in the town, for any other redevelopment. That's the way I look at it, because you've got 452 units that are paying into that. And like I said, we go full boat 5 years, and the problem really goes away after that. I mean, I've got all projections. I would love to share projections with the township committee and the PMUA board and help try to solve that problem. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Mancuso.
Al Mancuso, 40 Churchill Boulevard, New Egypt. So, as I understand it, according to the law, we have to have a balanced budget. Makes a lot of sense. So, this year, we're X amount in the hole. So, at $70 a month, when they first came up with this, the first couple of years, I mean, you had to be in a very big hole. I mean, did the township actually pay all of that money?
So to answer that,
Are you to be actually even?
well, earlier in my presentation, when I said we were failed as a fiscal year 22, the next year following that rate hearing, you were $1.4 million in the hole for sludge hauling with Veolia. So that money, and it's a good point that you bring up. This budget assumes none of those past what I'll call transgressions. The town has stepped up. That $4 million that the town has spent since July 1st, 2023 is inclusive of a settlement with the contractor that built the treatment plant in the tune of $2.1 million, as well as, although we haven't paid any money yet, Veolia, just so everybody's aware, Veolia held us in default of our contract. They're no longer our contract operator because we owed them $1.4 million from calendar year, alleged, let the record reflect, alleged that we owe them $1.4 million. They left. So that $1.4 million is being picked up by the township. They issued a bond anticipation note for that money. That is not included anywhere in the budget for 2025.
And the second question is, in the transition of the plant going live was a little late. You know, I think people were moving in, people were connected to the sewer. And there were some operational costs to bridge the gap. Were those operational costs general budget, or were they part of the construction budget? Because that would have had to been construction problems and costs.
So it was a little bit of both. It was mostly outside of that, but the problem with the infrastructure bank is that the infrastructure bank, the relationship wasn't great at the end. And I want to use the term that they cut us off. That's not really what happened. We did not borrow that money as startup costs in a loan. Number one, because of the relationship with between our old consultant operator and the iBank. More importantly, the township has a cap as to what they can borrow. So the pilot funds are used as collateral for the $32 million loan. There's only so much money that the town can borrow from the iBank. So we were kind of capped with what we can borrow because the town still needs to have money available for roads and parks and other types of borrowing.
So in the end, they paid, used operational money to bridge the gap in the construction before they went live. You know, hauling out
In a sense, some, yes, but there were almost $4 million that were just never paid that the town has now picked up outside of the operational budget. The settlement with Tomar and the alleged $1.4 million with Veolia, that's all outside the operating budget that the town's picking up through the bond anticipation note. I don't know if that answers your question. Okay.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Senator Cash 14 13 Cedar Street, New Egypt. First, I'd like to say it's wonderful that you have a system that goes above and beyond as far as the cleanliness of its output, its efficiency, and everything else. And I understand that having higher standards, higher than are required, is expensive. What I don't understand is why it was chosen to go that route in a house that is not full of million-dollar homes and high six-figure incomes, does not have ratables in large, efficient, and well-to-do downtown. It's just misplaced to begin with. Secondly, you talk about the township generously donating $4 million to help bail out the sewer authority. That's our money too. We're paying that as well. That's our tax money. So we're paying it in our taxes and we're paying it in the sewer. So either way, it comes out of our pockets. I looked online and I compared, I was not including the $500,000 subsidy, but at the proposed rate of $160 a month, I compared the sewer rates here to sewer rates for similar to our household in other areas, which is 1 person, 5 fixtures. You are 4.5 times higher than Lakehurst, 5.3 times higher than Toms River and Pemberton, 6.9 times higher than Chesterfield, 8.3 times higher than Manchester West, 9.6 times higher than Mount Holly, and 15.5 times higher than Jackson Township. All of these towns have sewers. They all follow the law and are balancing their fiscal years in a more fair and equitable system. Maybe they're not at your standards, but if you didn't need to be at the standards, we are not the people to put it on the backs of. And I think whoever made those decisions should be subsidizing, not the taxpayers who, with perfectly good working septic tanks, had to abandon them, decommission them, pay the electric fees, and now we're being put over the barrel again and again to bail out our poor decisions in the beginning. And we can't do it. And the people who only have fixed incomes, only make so much, or they're single-person households, and they're not going to be able to afford this, they then have to sell, are not going to be able to sell their houses when buyers look at, whoa, you paid this much in sewer? I'm going to look somewhere else for a house. And we're going to get less money for those houses when we do sell them. So either way, we're at a loss for somebody else's poor decisions. And it wasn't fair because we were never asked if we wanted to take this on. Thank you.
Brian, out of the comparison rates that this woman told us of MUAs, how many of them actually are treating sewer? Because I believe most of them are pass-through.
They're mostly pass-through. We're not arguing with the comparison. The comparisons are accurate at the $160 a month. Again, it goes back to the fact that we are different. OCUA, a lot of those towns go to the Ocean County Utilities Authority, who's the treatment authority. They serve 700,000 people. If you gave me 700,000 people in Plumstead, we could probably get similar rates, even at the technology, at the limits that we're at. So the point is taken.
Anyone else this evening?
My name is William Reed, 17 Bridgetown Road. My only question is, and I understand all the information you presented tonight, and I think what Lucas is, whatever you want to hear. But my question is what capacity is that plant running at? What capacity can it, handle? And has anyone looked into maybe having any other third parties run their sewage through there to make some efficient revenue to offset that cost?
Mr. Brock, if you could, I don't know if we've been cleared to talk about it yet, but could you talk about some of the actions we've taken to hopefully eliminate this issue?
Yeah, so the plant was designed with 2 treatment trains, each rated for 110,000 gallons a day. Current capacity of 220. We're about half of that, 50%. It has the ability to add a 3rd train that would bring you up to 330. So that's where we got that figure that was floating out there of 2,000 more connections. The permit is for 600 600,000 gallons a day, 600,000 gallons a day. We are actively, all of the collaborators I had up on the screen, every single one of them is helping us try to figure out how to come up with a wastewater management plan. There are a number of projects that are, I'll call shovel ready. One of them is potentially a community in town that could pump to us with 300 units. There's another one in a neighboring town. All ideas are on the table of not just servicing Plumsted, but servicing other areas if it would benefit all parties involved as quickly as we can get the connections to the plant.
Ma'am.
I'm Barbara Mislick, 28 Jacobstown Road. My question is, why are you charging all of us one universal flat rate? I live alone in a small village. And my water bill averages less than $25 a month. So I fail to appreciate why I would have to pay just under $500 a quarter, when my water isn't even $100 a quarter. And why would I be paying the same rate that the laundromat and the Wawa and other businesses and
I believe in Mr. Brock's presentation, he spoke about just in ESUs. Am I correct, sir?
The commercial units pay more. The commercial units pay more. They pay multiple equivalent service units, the same rate, but they pay multiple. The flat rate was established before anybody on this board got here. It is in conformance with all requirements of the statute. It is the predominant form of billing for wastewater across the country, especially in small systems, especially in systems that not everybody has potable water, and even more especially in systems where the MUA doesn't own that water system. I'll say this to the rate issue. This hearing is not about the rate structure itself, but you have to be careful what you wish for, because you might save money, but if we have $1.8 million we need to raise, and instead of paying 120, you're paying 100, that means somebody's paying 140. Jeff, 50% of the people will pay more, 50% of the people will pay less. Okay? Chairman, they need to go to the microphone if they want to make a comment. I would argue that there will be more unhappy people here when we change the rate structure.
I'm also wondering how often are you planning to raise the rates? Because we never had a choice as to whether we would hook up or not. I'm part of the mandatory hookup location, so I don't have a choice. And I don't appreciate that not only do you want to charge me through the nose for it, but you also will put a tax sale on my house if I don't pay it or if I can't pay it.
Mr. Brock, is there programs out there to assist those who have difficulty paying their bill?
Unfortunately, for water and wastewater, there are not state-run programs.
Mr. Lombardo. Just take it out. Hold it.
John Lombardo, 6 Gulf Stream Road. Okay, let's be real about this whole entire system. I've been... Okay. From the start, 2.5 years ago, I've been complaining about, when I got my first sewer bill, that it wasn't broken broken down properly based upon usage. I, again, took bills from our facility in, our community in Lennar, and it showed that we put very little into the system, the sanitary system. If you base it on what the water usage is, it doesn't compare in any way. We are getting overcharged as is. You know, I told this to many people. I have experience in setting sewer rates and water rates through the state. A couple of solutions which I said was, you bill the people by what they use, you put the meters up. When you look at this whole entire situation, okay, take the fact the people in the town that are on fixed income, the Lennar community, that you have a lot of retired people that are on fixed income. You asked for a 128% increase. We have demonstrated that we're not using hardly any water that's going through the system. How are we benefiting from this? We're not. We're getting penalized for budgetary requirements that weren't met from past years that have led to this situation that we're in. And this is going to turn out to be like Florida right now. People are going to want to run out of here, sell their homes. They're not going to be able to sell it. You're asking 128% increase. Taxes are going to go up. Senior citizens. This is going to blow into a big, big problem as time goes on. Now, I appreciate what you showed us, the background. You did an excellent job. The only thing that I have to complain about was there wasn't one item on there that demonstrated to show that any of those particular departments that agreed upon this particular increase when you showed you couldn't meet your budget, that have taken into effect our billing situation and the fairness of it. There's no rate analyst on there. There isn't any rate analyst on this committee. I was a rate analyst, and there are ways when you need to make a certain amount of dollars. The reason that they don't want us to be billed by what we use, because with a flat rate, they're guaranteed the revenues. So they know they're going to get so much each quarter that, you know, they have to pay their expenses on and so forth. But my thought process on this is this. I've been asking for it. Apparently, you guys have done everything but that. You haven't looked into metering everyone in charges by what we use. But how about considering, which we have done many times in the BPU, when a rate increase is over 15-20%, especially in this economy, we would have what's called a phasing of rates over a period of time, so the ratepayers don't feel the pain of getting hit with it all in one shot. So now your response is going to be, well, if we do that, we're not going to get the revenues we need to meet the budget. But what I'm trying to say is, if you're going to increase us 71%, why not do it over 5 years? Because again, another thing with this increase, if it does, which you probably will go through, like the lady said, what other protection we have if you continuously do this next year and the year after and so forth, and you're going to get that 128%. Where's the money going to come from? You're in an economy that we're all in right now. Interest rates are hard. People retire. The whole world. And if we had to advertise this on any news channel throughout any state that a township asked for 128% increase, settled for 71% for senior citizens, they would think that's outrageous. Is it our fault, and should the bearing be put on us because there was some prior mistakes made from years ago that carried forward? So what we're trying to say is, we know this is a very muddy situation, but it seems like everything is getting pushed onto us, and we're not benefiting from it at all. We're asked to pay for it. What benefit are we getting for it? You know, we're not putting a lot in the system. So that's my point. But what you have to consider and think, this is going to blow up into a very, very big situation down the road, and you're going to probably see a lot of people selling their homes, which is going to bring the town back in the problem that they once had before we got to this point. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that better?
That's better.
So my concern is the garbage. So last year in 2024, I received a $9.03 bill that said I would get a tax lien on my home. And when I proceeded to call several times to your office, I got no response. The only thing I did get was from going down to the township and paying a $65 fee, including the with in addition to the $9.07, which no bill ever came to my home. So I would hope that for 2025 we have a better billing system, because I don't think anybody should have a tax lien on their house for $9.07.
No, well, it's not embarrassing, it's the law. No, so for the record, you have 24/7 access on WIP on the computer. You really don't need anything other than that. The non-responsiveness, I apologize, we'll do better, we'll work on that. The $9.03, the MUA, everybody knows we have. See, here's the thing. We come to every meeting and get beat up because there's people that haven't paid. Not that $9 is a problem. That's not the issue. And then when we put people on tax sale and do what everybody wants us to do, we took the hard line. The law says any municipal charges due as of November 11th go on the tax sale. We made no exceptions.
So every quarter was the same amount?
Correct.
Okay, so then why would there be a $9.07 bill?
I'd have to look at your account. I don't have access to it right now. It could be from prior years. We had a $12.72 charge for the last 13 days in December last year. And listen, I'm not saying that I want to do that to people at all. The MUA wants to do that. We don't. I'm just telling you we took a hard line and we didn't make any exceptions. So I'm sorry that you went on the tax sale. That's not what it's necessarily intended for. But we had $150,000 of outstanding bills, and we took no exceptions. So next year, yes. Well, if you went down to the tax office within the first couple of weeks, they were waiving $50 of that. Those fees are statutory as well. They were able to waive $50. I don't know when you paid the tax lien, but there were a number of people in a similar situation that went down, they got $50 waived, and they paid a $15 penalty.
And as far as the increase, why are we not looking at any other companies? Why is Waste Management the only one?
So the authority is, Waste Management had a 5-year contract. We're in year number 5. The authority is taking a step back in 2025 to come to an understanding of why we even offer the trash program in the way we do. Because it's a competitive market. You could leave tomorrow and go to another company. So people are constantly going and leaving, and there's just a lot of action. We're taking a step back to see, should we redesign the program? Should we continue with the program? So what we did was continue with Waste Management because they were in price with the bulk. The bulk is actually a nice benefit, reasonable. And we felt like year 5 was worth it to go into year 5. And then moving forward, we need to take a step back, and by June, we're going to make a decision of what the future of the program is.
But the money goes, part of that trash money goes towards your...
The administration, that's
People lose money if you shut down the trash program.
that's the crux of it.
And that would be coming up to the public as well as if we wanted to have this organization. Or if it was that just something you guys make that decision and we as taxpayers have nothing to say. Should you guys?
So that is a decision of the board. We don't, as far as whether we continue with the trash program or not, is a decision of the board. We don't need to have a public hearing for that. And I tell everybody this: if you're unhappy with the trash program, Freehold, Carthage, and Tri-State offer their services. They're a little bit more money, but you do have options.
88 cents a quarter.
Well, Tri-State is, yes. Yeah, Freehold Carthage is a little more, but there are other options if you are unhappy. And we do have people that legitimately are unhappy and they change services and it's better for them.
Well, they get a bill every quarter, whereas the MUA doesn't do that. So.
Right now, there is one company that is similar or slightly cheaper than the MUA. If the MUA decides not to do trash collection, I can guarantee you those rates will be going up from the private quarters. The only reason they're as low as they are is because the MUA got into this business, for lack of a better term. The rates were, I remember when they did it, and the rates around from the various quarters were extremely high. And this was a way to see if they could get essentially competition and lower the rates for the residents. And it was one of the first towns in the state to do it, quite frankly. So the authority will make that decision, but its decision could impact the rates the private carders charge.
But you get a quarterly bill.
No, so
And at the end of the year, it has $9.07.
everybody, just to address that, everybody in Plumstead gets a quarterly bill, but it's an annual bill with 4 coupons, just like your taxes. I mean, technically, I think by definition, that's a quarterly bill. I just want to correct the record. They do.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Kevin Fowler, 10 Emerald Road. Regarding, you said the $1.9 million budget for PMUA generally.
Yes.
What is the salaries account as far as that figure goes?
Well, the MUA only has one person technically hired by the MUA, but our contract administration, the administration function, which is shared services fees with Manasquan River, the Borough of Lakehurst, and our customer service representative, on day-to-day, 7 people is $191,000 all in. Yes.
The Hawken Road area, is that part of the sewer line?
The Hawken Road area right now, there are no sewers on that side of town.
Is that projected?
So right now, we have no plans, but that's why we're entering into the Water Technical Assistance Program with the EPA. We're going to look into that area because we know that there's more, I don't want to call it more densely development, but there are units out that direction.
Anyone else this evening?
Cedar Street. I have a follow-up based on your response to the tax lien situation. So if a quarter of your rateables have not paid their bills, which I saw in a publication, does that mean that you're going to put 242 Plumstead homes up for tax sale soon?
We put 347 homes on tax sale in November.
For non-payment of sewer?
And trash. It was the 66 sewer off the top of my head, and trash was in the 260, 270 range.
This is going to cause a New Jersey ghost town.
Anyone else? Go ahead. State. You got to talk into the mic, please.
So in the beginning, you went over that really great comparison of the NJPDS and how awesome our system is and how expensive it is. And it was going to be expensive because of the anti-degradation and S3 license and the cost of staffing requirements and the admin. That all would have been built into your 2021 expenditures, so you would have accounted for all of that. How were you so off? And what is the exact difference of your expenditures from 2021 projection to today, so we can see where you were so off? And it's hard to understand you were so off because we saw how many years of experience there was putting this together. So it's very helpful.
Sebastian.
I can answer for that lady. As I stated before that the current board sitting before you tonight, the current executive director, had nothing to do with the rate hearing and the putting together the rates and the putting together the sewer system. It was all done by our administrations, by PMUAs.
Where did those numbers come from? Like exactly, can we see spreadsheets of the exact numbers, the exact hourly rates?
Back then,
Yes, so today.
the only thing I could find online was the actual rate hearing, which was part of the minutes from the June 15, 2021 PMUA meeting. They had a meeting, and in that meeting, they had the rate hearing. It's online, the minutes of that meeting. You have to find true that, if it's true that, and it's actual hearing, it's a transcript. They mentioned a budget worksheet, but I could not find that.
Hold on.
So the PMUA has no documentation of what your expenditures were expected to be in 2021?
No,
I know what mine were in 2021. I can't imagine the board can, not knowing what the budget was.
I mean, the budget's posted on the website. It was approved by the state. I could go to the budget and decipher what the numbers say on the budget.
I mean, the numbers should be right because you knew of all of those expenditures. You rattled them off. You guys knew before you did this plan
Ma'am,
exactly what it was going to
we had
cost.
nothing to do with that rate hearing, ma'am. We had nothing to do with setting those rates.
Who can provide us the difference?
I'm not sure, but I believe,
I know that your numbers are just as wrong as what they were in 21.
because ours is based on true actual operating costs.
Of the admins
Everything-
and the permits and the licensing, because I imagine they also would have been actual numbers. Were they guessing at how much you were going to pay the admin? You were guessing what the state was going to charge you for licenses? No.
Hold on.
I'm sorry, that's not how life works. You knew
That
what
is-
it was going to cost.
I don't know, Mr. Brock, I believe when they did this system, to answer this young lady's questions, is when they entered into agreement to do this plan, I believe they had a consultant guesstimate what it should be. Yeah.
So, what can be done? I guess we can't do that today. What can be done to provide the people of the town to show the exact difference between what it was, where it is today, and how we were off and why we were off? If you're going to charge us all this money, can we at least know why and see the evidence that backs it up? I think that's fair.
We can provide you the actual operating costs that we're dealing with. What they did before, I can't answer that question.
So if we're in debt today because someone pocketed $1 million, there's no way to find that out.
Ma'am, I didn't say that, and first off, nobody pocketed money.
How do you know that?
Because we have an auditor sitting right at the end that checks the books.
Get us the information from 2021, difference in expenditures.
Well,
today.
let me ask you, what is the purpose for getting you those numbers?
Because I don't believe your numbers for this year.
Okay, well, okay. If she, then,
It seems fair.
so she doesn't believe our numbers. So we can get the 2021 budget off the website. I'm sure I can find some worksheets. For what purpose, I don't know.
I thought I just made it clear. I can say it again, it's fine. It's because we don't believe your numbers right now. We want to know where you were and how you came to where you are today. That's fair. We're not talking 15 years ago. There's no way there's not documentation. I'm sorry, I just don't believe that. I don't.
In the name of transparency and full disclosure, can you put the financial statements from 2021 to date so that somebody can go and do a comparison if they'd like to? We're just asking for the financials. If you don't want to or can't do a comparison, can you put those financials out there?
I think our three years of audits are on there.
Yeah, by law, every audit, every certified audit, and every adopted budget is on the website, available for at least the past, off the top of my head, 5 to 10 years.
Budget or actual financials?
The audit is also on there. Budgets and audits are required by the state to be on the website, and there's a button on the left-hand side for both of them.
I've pulled a lot of them down from 2021 because she's asking for 2021. From 2021, are they out there?
Yes.
Okay.
Katrina Placer, 14 Gulf Street Road. I just have a couple of questions that we've got a lot of lined up in my head. Can you hear me better?
Go ahead.
Okay. So I'm just going to kind of ramble them off and you can answer in whatever order you want. But first of all, to the question about the records, I used to work for the Mercer County Planning Division. I'm a former planner, so I know that those records, those minutes, everything have to exist. It's illegal for them to be missing. So it's not just go down to the budget. We should be able to request it via Oprah if that's what you want. We should be able to request all of that documentation. And to say it's not necessary is against New Jersey Open Records Act. So just that. But my first thought was the letters that you received from the DCA and DEP, that kind of thing, supporting this proposed rate increase is great, but did you question them, would it be better or more economical for our constituents if we did a flat fee versus a per usage fee? Or did they only respond to the question of, is this flat fee okay?
They don't,
They were not responding to the fee or the structure at all. They were looking at revenues and expenditures and saying that it met the requirements of the statute.
Okay, so you never addressed with them the fact that myself, for example, who lives in a household of one because my husband had a massive stroke on May 8th and has not returned home, and is now permanently in a nursing home, is paying the same amount as somebody with 6 or more, even 3 or more people in their house. And how does that even logically make sense? It doesn't. And everyone here keeps applauding for why can't we look at usage versus flat rate, and I never get an answer.
ma'am, that is an incorrect statement because I believe Mr. McGuckin has addressed several times why we have a problem with consumption rate.
I have never heard an answer.
Only a small portion of the ratepayers of the MUA have public water, and the public water system is not owned by the MUA, it's a private utility. That private utility has not shared with the MUA its water usage fees, they're not required to, and number 3, it would only be a portion of the municipality, which would mean rates for some residents would be different than others. That's illegal under the statute. All users must be treated the same way.
If we're all being charged the same dollar amount per
Mr. Lombardo,
usage, that is
please.
the same way.
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
If we're all being charged the same amount per usage, $5 per whatever, I don't care what that number is right now, but that is just as equal as a flat rate.
However,
We're all being charged the
there's
same
no
amount.
way to determine usage for a vast majority of the customers of the Plumsted Municipal Utilities Authority.
That's not correct. I've lived in
Please tell me how.
places that it was charged per use.
I understand. It was probably a public water system also owned by the municipality or a utility authority controlled by the municipality. We cannot regulate water into your home, which is the only way you would be able to regulate the sewer charges. The other alternative is to purchase a sewer meter for every house. That would be I'll finish my answer, and then if you want to get up again, you'll have a chance, sir. To do so would cost, I'm not even going to venture a guess, I'm a lawyer, but I'm telling you it would be extremely expensive. In addition to that, as the executive director indicated, half the people are going to pay a lot more. So at this juncture, the authority has made the determination, which they're allowed to do under the statute. There are 7 different ways they can determine how to apply rates. This is the way they've chosen. I think when the system becomes more mature, when the system has more users, I am sure the authority will take another look and see if there's a better way to do it. As of now, I understand, ma'am, I really do. However, this is the conundrum they're in. This is the way they're attempting to address it as best they can. And until the system is more mature, they're not in a position to do that. And until we have a way to measure water usage or sewer usage at a reasonable cost, that's why the equivalent dwelling unit is the one that has been chosen by the authority, which is one of the 7 methods that is permitted to be done under the law.
And do we have a breakdown that is available to us for why you think that this is the better option versus a per use? Can we see the actual math behind that?
We don't have that math. This is how it's always been set up. And let me ask you this. So Lennar has a pump station that only Lennar flows through. Why should anybody outside of Lennar be responsible for maintaining your system in that pump station? There's a cost there. Should we be appropriating those costs just to Lennar?
It's not my fault that's how you chose to build the system.
No, well, I'm saying there are different ways to do it, and this idea that there's this precise and equitable and fair way, exactly precise way to bill people does not exist. And this system meets the intent of the statute. It would pass any legal test of the statute. It is the predominant rate form for small wastewater utilities across the country. And to Mr. McGuckin's point, we're not saying never. We're saying right now where this authority is in our infancy, it is the most equitable way to bill people.
But you don't have anything to back that up that we can see. Is that the answer you're giving me?
I don't have a consultant document.
No, we've never done a study. Do you want us to spend $50,000 on a study?
If that'll make things make sense, then
No.
yes.
And here's the other problem that we have too. This utility has a cash flow problem. In order to bill volumetric, you have to bill 3 months in arrears or bill monthly or bi-monthly, which increase costs. We need money. We can't wait 4 months for cash to hit the account.
So that's the problem there. Nobody bothered to figure out the budget until it was too late. Thanks.
I just want to add that with venue being 452 homes total built out, New Jersey American Water, we all have meters. The other 400 or 500 connections in town, 600 connections? 600 connections?
No.
600. 452 built out.
That's it.
In town, 600 in town. So we are the vast majority, Venue is the vast majority, so more than 50% actually are already metered. And I believe New Jersey American Water can probably do the billing for the sewer as well, because they're asking them to do, pay them the fee, they'll take the meter reading. So those that are actually water, okay, so let's figure out what it would cost to put meters on those 30 units or whatever it might be that's out there. So the vast majority are metered, and there is a way, and an easy way to do it with New Jersey American Water.
Mr. Lombardo. Mr. Lombardo, I'm going to ask you to sit down. This young lady here was first.
Kristen Jicka, 80 Lakeview Drive. I just want to start with, I do have an environmental background, and my husband's a wastewater treatment operator in N4. So where I live, it was mandatory. We were phase 1. We were told $70 a month for 10 years. So when is phase 2? When is phase 3? When are my neighbors across the lake gonna get their sewer? Be mandatory to get their sewer? What about the people that didn't sign up for the sewer? I was hit with threats of daily fees if I didn't sign up for the sewer. So what about all the other people?
So the township does have a mandatory connection ordinance, which was required by the New Jersey Infrastructure Bank to secure the loan, essentially. If you're going to spend $35 million, everybody needs to connect to it. We have approximately 63 people that haven't connected that are in violation of said ordinance. It's a township ordinance, so we're in communication with the township. The next step is a summons, and they'll have to go to Manchester before a judge, and the judge will make a ruling. We don't have control over that. The ordinance says up to $100 of a day fine. Who knows what the judge would assess? We have a recommendation to make, but most likely, if these residents don't connect, that's what's going to happen. They will be taken to court and be forced. Now, we can't put a backhoe in their yard and make them connect, but they're going to have to pay court fees. They're going to have to go to court. They're going to get a fine. It's not going to be good. So if you have any neighbors that haven't connected, please, everybody here wants them to connect.
So what phase are we in?
Sorry.
Okay, so we're in phase 1, so when is phase 2 to be started?
So
you're asking me for $160 a month for how many years?
So phase 2 and phase 3 and other areas to be served are all being studied through a free program with the US EPA. And a typical wastewater management plan costs hundreds of thousands of dollars. We're getting it for free. We're going to come up with a plan. Now, the issue is funding for capital infrastructure. It costs $20 million to build the sewer system right now. Our budget has $0 right now for any debt service. I don't think the township has capacity to borrow any money. So the holdup for us with servicing, in particular your neighbors, comes down to, okay, what's the plan? How do we get the sewer there? How many people at what cost? And what programs are available? We've made really good inroads with the New Jersey Infrastructure Bank. They have principal forgiveness programs that we're hopeful we can qualify for, that would help us pay for it. Other than that, it's a plan and then figuring out how to pay for it.
Ma'am.
Stacy Reed, 791, I think one of the things that we
because you were not the administration when the system started. And I think the residents have a right to know. I will never badmouth an administration. Listen, I did not want the sewer system. This is the last thing that I wanted, nor did I need it. But I had to do it because I was told that I had to do it. We hired a company to come in and build a sewer system for us with nobody that had any knowledge, and they took advantage of us. The company took advantage of this town. They took advantage of our administration. They billed us for things that were astronomical, and all we did was have continuous work orders that everybody just signed off on. The public, the residents of this town are paying for those mistakes. But that's a black and white mistake. That's what happened. That was the situation that we were put in. We had a board like yourselves, who are all residents in this town, who are all failing us, but had absolutely no experience in putting in a sewer system in this town, and had no business being held responsible to make decisions that they knew nothing about. And that is why we're in the situation that we're in today. So while I have to stand on both sides, I am a resident in this town. I am now, with this new height, paying sewer on 3 buildings, all on American Water also. I don't even know how I'm going to do this. Trying to figure out how I'm going to manage all of this. Trying to start another business in town. Trying to build a downtown. Trying to keep people here and not sell their homes. Trying to invite businesses to come to the downtown. I understand that you guys are constantly being attacked. But for a minute, just sit back and think about what everybody in this town is literally going through. Whether you're a resident on the outskirts and not affected by this, only by what your taxes are going to go up, but the people who also are downtown, the people who are fighting to try to bring business here, the people who are trying to survive that already have a business here. It's a tough situation, and I feel for everybody here. But the residents need to know this was a failure from the get, not your fault. And I apologize for the attacks that you guys take, because I understand it was not you. There is not a familiar face anywhere around here when this whole entire situation started, and you guys are taking the brunt of it. But I ask you as a board to understand where the residents are coming from. And I have to agree. You threw a number at us at $1,800,000. Why that number? And I don't think that's an unfair question to ask. Where did that number come from? And I think the residents have a right to know what. There's not a single person, I don't think, in this building that would have sewers in this town. I don't see a single hand here. So all we ask is, I understand how frustrating it is for you, but just understand how frustrating it is for us. If somebody needs to understand where we have a number of $1,800,000, and you have a right to know where that number comes from and why we're responsible for that.
Yes, sir.
Hi, John Roundhouse, 22 Lakeview Drive. Just have a couple things just a couple questions and a couple points of clarity that I believe that the original studies and the original numbers, and I don't know if this is totally accurate, but on the MUA section of the township website, September 2014, there was a letter to Nancy Campbell from the DEP requesting a decrease in treatment rates based on socioeconomic studies that were done at the sewer treatment area. Based on that part of our town having a lower socioeconomic status than Plumsted as a whole. And when looking at the treatment area for the sewers, it should be based on what that socioeconomic status of the area that's being treated by the sewer as opposed to the socioeconomic status that is recorded for the entire town. And it was my understanding that the DEP did change or did agree to, I guess, decrease treatment rates based on that socioeconomic study results that came through from that. But in that letter to Nancy Kemble, there's about 25 pages of breakdowns of budget costs for the different types of plants and different treatment options based on the 300,000 gallons per day and the 600,000 gallons per day. And Van Cleef did put full budgets together for each of the different treatment options and what the cost would be. So it's in that letter on the township website if you want to check that, because I think that might be where those 21 operating budgets came from. But that being said, I guess why did we decide to go with the 600,000 gallons per day as opposed to the 300,000 gallons per day? If we knew that the operating expenses were going to be much higher for the 600,000, or if we're not using the full 600,000 yet and that's planned for phase 2 or 3, then I guess why are we operating the entire plant? Can't we shut down, I guess, tracks 2 or 3 or track, like at least one of the tracks in there to go to the lower rate plant and lower operating expenses based on not running the full plant?
So I would actually take the opposite side of that for this reason. I wish the town built the plant for 600. You know why? Not $1 of the money that went into the infrastructure for that plant is in this rate. They're paying for it. So right now I actually feel constrained. The plant is permitted for 600, but it got built for 330. It got built for half of what it's worth. I wish I had the ability to go find 600,000 gallons a day without expansion. So I would take the opposite view that the plant being overbuilt is not what's driving your costs. That was actually a really good move. I really wish they built a third train. Then I wouldn't need any money to build it when we got people to connect. The town's picking up that entire tab.
Okay,
Yeah.
I thought when you said 600, I thought that meant we had all 3 trains.
No, 3 gets you to 330, but then you have another 270,000 gallons to get to the permitted capacity, which is not the same thing as the constructed capacity. They're different.
So the shell of the building can support it, but the train was never put in to support that. But I guess it can be added.
They reduced the size of the plant. The shell can support 330.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Never mind. That's, okay, so then I guess the other question I have was, right after the plant went live, the executive director at the MUA at that time had said that they were seeing, that it looked like they were seeing different inflow values that were correlating directly to the rainflow values or the rainfall values. And they were reporting at the time that they felt that that could mean that either some pumps were hooked up to the plant or there were possible breaks in the line that were allowing water to inflow in and changing the inflow into the plant. Has that ever been looked at, or is that something that, is that still happening? Or?
I'll make a general observation. The system's new. It's not leaky. We have had calls, a handful of calls during rainfall events that someone's toilet backed up. Every single time we've done an investigation, we're high and dry in the sewer system. Are some pumps hooked up? I've worked in a lot of systems in my 20 years. Yes. Without a doubt, some pumps are hooked up somewhere. That's part of the problem. We do see an increase with wet weather, which is you look at 100% of the sewer systems around the country. When you go through a wet period, your flows increase. There's not one system that's immune to that.
Listen, and I don't have it written down which exact meeting it was, but that was brought up at one of the MUA.
I'll tell you this, from my experience, and I don't have the numbers to back it up, I'm just telling you, I look at the daily flow rates. The percentage of increase, I would say, is on the very low end. You have what we'll call a tight system, not a leaky system. Yeah.
And the timing of that was around when there was the issue on Lakeview Drive with I believe it's the Services house where they had the open, where they had the issue with the getting the connection, and it was an open. There was an open point in the line, at least at that point, but it was only that one potential. But I guess the concern was just around, was there things that were done by the person installing the pipes that maybe some of the pipes had cracked or broken, or is there any way to check that? I guess was the big thing, is if we're paying treatment on all the inflow that comes in, or are we treating things that we don't need to treat just because there's a potential leak or something along that line? And then I just wanted to clarify just the slide that you would put up as far as the operating financials, the one that said it was a 1.914 million total sewer operating expenses for the 2025 budget. That was showing a wastewater administration expense of $427,680, but I thought when you just clarified it, I thought you said it was only about 220,000 for the operating, for the administration expenses.
Well, the specific question was about salaries. So although we only have one salaried person, everything else is shared service. The contract administration line item, so that number I put up there of the $475,000 encompasses a lot more than just that line item. That line item is 191,300, and then you have 15 other line items that contribute to it, including property and liability insurance, equipment, professional fees. We have counsel, we have an auditor, we have an engineer. All of those fees are baked into that number as well.
Okay, and that's all under the administration, not the operational expenses, or?
That's correct.
Okay.
Typically, that's how they're represented in any authority budget.
Is there any way to get a full breakdown or see what, I guess, how that 1.9 million comes together, or?
So we could offer this if the board's comfortable with it. We posted, which is not typical, but after last meeting, it was requested that we post the preliminary calendar year 25 budget, which has not been introduced or adopted. That is on the website right now. If you want a breakdown of the numbers, Chairman, it's up to the board. I don't have a problem providing our detail. We're not hiding anything in the detail. It's all in there anyway. So if you're comfortable with it, I'd have no problem posting what we call the budget detail.
Mr. Knight, I was just, to answer your question, I have zero issue with doing it because I believe it's transparency. It needs to be up there.
And I think that would address a couple of the other questions we had. The detail is the line by line by line what goes into our finance system. The state budget is more of a summary of that. We could post that on the webpage.
Right, and I guess just if the Van Cleef engineering numbers were what we went off of, and I guess they were that far off, is there any, I guess, remedy that we can go back to against the engineering firm that put those numbers together do they get errors and omission clause that we can claw back on, or is there any kind of bonding or anything that we can?
What was the date of that study?
This letter was in 2014, so I don't know if there was a more recent one, so I know it's 10
So,
years old now. But
two issues. Number one would be the statute of limitations has long since expired on a professional malpractice claim. But number two, we would need our own expert to pay to determine that Van Cleef did something so egregious, that it was an estimate as opposed to they were so wrong that it shouldn't have been an estimate. I can guarantee you that their estimate was coded with language about based on a little bit that we know and what we may happen. I'm sure they put that type of language in there. So to go back after that would be extremely difficult from a legal standpoint. Just put it that way.
get us out of the situation we're in.
No, and also in reference to that estimate, because now that I'm thinking about it, it does address some of the other questions. I was not around when that was developed, right? But I've seen it, I'm familiar with it. I think in that estimate, they had estimated that an operational personnel was $80,000. For what? Health benefits and pension costs?
Yeah, they claimed it at $80 an hour for 20 hours a week. So
Yeah.
if you're saying we need 35,
And the S3 requires 35, and typically you have more there. So that, just to give you an idea, like things change between that estimate and what actually got built. I think that's part of the problem too.
Okay. Well, no, and that's, like I said, just trying to figure out if there's any other options for us at this point. But, and then just the only final point was just the, sorry, I thought I had it, but, oh, yes, just the question that keeps coming up around the billing and the flat fee. And I totally understand how we have houses that are on wells that don't have water meters to tell how much water they're using. But other towns in New Jersey have done it where they have a breakdown, where they have a flat fee based on housing type, whether it's like 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom. That if you don't have a water meter, you would just be subject to that clause. And then if you want to put the expense out for a water meter, then you can go with just the actual bill usage. But they put it on the homeowner to pay for that cost for the water meter if they want to go to an actual usage scenario. But anybody that has a water meter, they bill it based on the actual rate. And then if not, you go off of the, I guess, the housing or unit type. And I've seen a couple towns in New Jersey that are billing it that way. I didn't know if that's something.
So not to commit the board to anything, because listen, since we've all taken over, it's been prioritization, kind of like triage of things that we need to take off the list. We hear everybody with their concerns with the rate system. I want to get that across with you. I understand what you're saying. And we don't mean to come off as brash or anything when we're arguing with you. It's just, we have 100 other priorities that are more important. Now, I'm not saying it's not important, and I would say this. If if we change the rate structure, I will stick by my words right now. Be careful what you wish for. And I'll also say, before we went volumetric, I would recommend to the board they look into something like fixture count. You can get that information from the assessor. But you also have to remember, downtown New Egypt in itself. You have Plumsted, then downtown New Egypt. You have to compare yourself to the average user downtown. Right? It's all relative, and it's a small system. Downtown New Egypt is, in and of itself, generally uses less water than other areas. The houses are smaller, there's not as many people, not as many fixtures. There are a couple different ways we could go with it, not committing us to anything. I just wanted to relay, we hear you. There are other acceptable methods. At some point, we will get to that priority where we look at it, and we will engage the public, and we will make whatever decision is the right one at that time.
Well, right now, I mean, just for myself, I mean, I understand that with a 3-bathroom house, I should be paying more than Miss like the guys with 1-bathroom house. I mean, at least that's the way I look at it. I figure, okay, yeah, I have more water usage. It makes sense for me to be paying more. But no, I totally get it that people may not be happy if they get that extra rate based on usage, et cetera. But at least then everybody feels like they're getting charged what they should get charged. I guess is the concern with that. But thank you, and thank you for putting this together.
Mr. Lombardo, please. There's people that haven't spoken yet.
Well, there were others that spoke to it. I'm going to be short. I'm not going to be a long time. I just wanted to address one question that I kind of need an answer for. The money that was allegedly owed to Viola, the $1.4 million that you said it was that paid? That was paid from the town by the township to Viola to square that away?
Nothing has been paid. The authority has not agreed that the amount is $1.4 million. That is the amount they've claimed in a written correspondence, and I'm not going to say any more than that.
So it hasn't been paid?
Correct.
So how do they show it on their books? Is it, like in other words, there's been some rumors said that they're going to be sued, or have they been sued for not paying money yet?
We have not. The authority is the one who had the contract with Veolia, and not the township, and the authority has not been sued as of this day.
And so they haven't paid. So now, somewhere down the road, that money may have to be paid to them. Where's that going to come from?
That is what has been, I believe the executive director addressed, that is something that is included within the monies that have been loaned or subsidizing the authority. That money is available if it's determined that the authority owes that or a portion of that. That money is available.
Okay, now, you don't want to hear it, but I have to come back to this with the probability for just briefly for a second. Just think about where we're coming from. And I say this over and over and over. You really got to think hardly about how we really are getting ripped off in the current rate. If your water bill is $25 a month, your sewer bill is going to be $200. What is it going to be now? 120 a month. It's going to go from 70 to 120. So $120 in sewer, $20 in water. We all have meters. We pay for them. They're not expensive to install. I don't understand why this administration, this group, has not looked into putting meters. You can put them on the wells. You can put meters on everyone that's part of the system, and let's just pay for what we use and be fair. Now, what's going to show, you are right, if they do it that way, they're going to even have a shorter fall of revenues because we're not putting much into the sewer system, but we have this beautiful plant that they're paying so much money for it, it's so expensive, and the cost is being pushed on to us. And we are not using hardly anything to go in the system. It was a big mess. Then again, second highest sewer rates in the state of New Jersey. Second highest. We will be the highest when this goes through. Why? Why don't other townships have issues and problems like we're having? And now the burden is pushed on to all of us. And that's why we're frustrated. And again, not blaming you guys. You inherited a bad situation. 2.5 years went by and the situation's gotten worse. It hasn't gotten better. So, like a lot of people said, this is gonna be a ghost town again. People are gonna put their homes up, but who's gonna wanna buy when they hear how much they have to pay for their sewer rates? That's it, thank you.
Sir.
Gerald McCookie, 57 Churchill. I really have just a two-part question. One is, with regards to the operating budget, what opportunities have you looked at and in terms of reducing that budget? And what is the projection? What is the risk of it increasing or decreasing in the upcoming years? Are you providing us with a projection for the next 5 years, or can we see it?
We don't have a 5-year projection. Not that we couldn't put one together. And yes, we're trying to save money operationally wherever we can. Like I said, this isn't discretionary, but we have a new operator. If we could use less of a chemical, if we could waste less sludge, if we can negotiate better rates for whatever it might be, we're looking into all of that. And
so is that something that we could possibly count on in terms of happening for next year?
No, don't count on that. I mean, no.
What are you actively pursuing?
Well, let me ask you, what in life has gone down over the past 2 or 3 years in cost? Electricity goes up, natural gas goes up. You know, yeah. Listen, the rate, the actual cost is $160 a month. The town is kicking in $500,000, bringing it down to $120. So even at $120 that you're paying, yeah. But I'm saying the actual cost, you're paying $120, but it's actually costing $160. So for me to sit here and tell you it's going to go below $120, I don't think anybody on this board is going to tell you that, because it's fully dependent on a subsidy from the town. Listen,
and I understand the position that you guys in. You didn't inherit the problem. I understand that. But what I don't understand is why there isn't a lot of attention to see what you can do to help us with a better rate by reducing operating costs, giving us a realistic projection. Because I sat here for an hour or whatever it's been, and I'm even more nervous that it's going to go up, not down. And that, this 120 that it's going to be is, if we don't get a subsidy from, the following years from the township, it could actually get worse. So what confidence are you going to provide to the people that are stuck with this, that this isn't going to come down, or is it in fact really going to go up? We ought to know that.
We're proposing the rate, and we have a budget developed for calendar year 2025.
What about next year, or 26 and 27?
We'll discuss 2026 and 2026. We'll discuss 2027 at that proper time. I mean.
So that's what you're saying, then. You're only looking at it for 1 year. And you never are looking longer term in how to address the concern of, reducing operating costs.
No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying right now, this is a rate hearing on the 2025 rate. We're not making promises on 2026 forward. We're talking about the 2025 rate.
I'm sorry, but are you going to be looking at what that budget is planned going to be in 26 and 27? I heard you're not going to do a 5-year, you're going to do a 3-year? What is this normal?
The board, and I can vouch for this, they're unpaid. They have put in a substantial amount of time trying to address everything you're asking right now. And I know nobody sees that. That's why I get a little frustrated. Like the amount of time they've put in trying to think 5 or 10 years down the road, meeting with representatives, trying to find money to expand the system. Because a lot of this hedges on getting connections into the system, which the MUA has virtually zero control over. Development in this town, development in other towns. We have a model. I'd be happy to sit down with anybody to show you the model and what we can change here or there. It's actually kind of sophisticated, and it gives us a good idea of like, okay, let's change some scenarios. Let's change this cost, change that cost, number of connections, debt service, and you can kind of plug and play. Right now, we're focused on 2025, and the board, feel free to speak. We just can't make any promises moving forward. Right now, we're hyper-focused on 2025 and a lot of initiatives that are happening right now.
Hold on. I honestly think the operation costs is a small piece of the problem. The biggest piece of the problem is how are we going to get additional connections? That's the problem. How do you increase the connections? We are actively, and I can't give all the details, we are actively looking that if it comes through within the next 2 years, there could be upward of 500 connections, if it all pans out. I can't promise you that. We're doing our best to increase connections.
But simplistically, I get that is a big problem. The more connections you have, the more revenue you're going to get. But the operating cost is the first order driver to what the rate is it not? Right? I mean, if it's going to go up 10% or 20% or whatever, over the next several years, what confidence or what do you think is going to happen to that rate? Just based on if everything stays the status quo, we're going to wind up getting hit with another rate increase. Am I missing something?
No, you're not, but we're doing everything we can for that not to happen. Now, we can't.
That's what I
No.
was asking about the projection. Because to me, you need to identify these are the opportunities, and it would be great if you were transparent and sharing them with everybody. And these are the risks. And hopefully, there's more opportunities to lower than our risk to raise. But if, whatever it is, you need to look at that, what's that likely to be over the next couple of years.
Let me address besides the increase in rates, there's discussion now. Where it's going to go, I don't know. How we're going to reduce the sludge hauling. With our new operator, they're committed to looking at how we're going to reduce chemical usage and everything else to get where we are. I don't know what the outcome of that is going to be. For us to sit here and say, yeah, that's what's going to happen, I can't do that.
But, can you at least identify it as an opportunity and then say, this is the plan that we're doing to attack that? And if it does come to fruition, it might be able to save us all some money. Because at the end of the day, that's why you're hearing all this frustration. These rates are outrageous. There's no other term for it. They're really outrageous.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, I think one thing you're seeing from the current board and the executive director who's been here for, 13 months, 12 months? How long have you been here? About 13 months. We're not doing what they did in 2021. So everything, they have been, I believe, more transparent than anyone has been before. And we are not going to promise something that can't be delivered. And as of today, nobody can promise you what it's going to be or how it's going to be. There are too many factors that are unknown. As the chairman just indicated, if there's a way to increase customers and connections without having to build additional system, that changes all the numbers that would be otherwise applicable. If we have to build additional lines to connect, that would be a cost that we may not have to do if we have other connections that are not requiring that new infrastructure. So those are the discussions that are being had, and we can't possibly tell you that if that happens, because we don't know if it'll happen. That's where we're at.
I understand, and I'm not asking you to make a promise that you're going to lower the rate.
That seems to be what you're asking.
No, what I'm asking is that you identify opportunities and risk so we can all make decisions on what this rate is likely to be or could possibly be in the upcoming years. Because it's reached a point now where people are going to be, and you heard some of it, you know, people are going to make a decision whether they're going to stay. Right? It's as simple as that. And it would be nice if we understood that there's hope downstream that the rate could come down or at least not increase. But I wasn't asking for you to make promises. I'm asking you to look at opportunities and risk and to be transparent about what they are so we can make decisions on what we need to do moving forward. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I would also recommend that if anybody hasn't spoken that would like to speak, that they come up in order, and everybody can talk. We just, if you haven't spoken and you'd like to speak, if you could just come up behind Bernie.
Happy New Year, Bernard Bond, 370 East Mill Street Road. Am I glad I'm not sitting up there making decisions? And I'm also glad I'm not sitting in this audience being affected by this rate. I'm someone that's not on it either way. But I just want to keep everyone in mind that there is a large section of town, like myself, whose every time the word subsidy comes out, it's money that I'm paying for a service that does not affect me and many other people. So although I understand this rate is high and it's unpleasant, I'm sure the decision's been unpleasant, at some point we're going to get tired of paying for something that we don't use also. So at the end of the day, the people that are connected to it need to understand that. The PMUA also needs to understand that, and I think Township Committee is going to have to need to understand that, because we're losing out on a lot of things we could do with these subsidies, other than paying for literal shit to be taken care of. Excuse my language, too. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else that hasn't spoke? Mr. Mancuso first. Sorry. You have to talk in the mic, sir.
The four of you up there were not involved at the beginning of this, because I said the original meetings, you had not a competent person.
Sir, I don't,
Didn't have a
please.
competent person in the whole bunch of you. Didn't know anything about construction, let alone a sewer. Brian, I met you personally, and I had a one-on-one with you with the deputy mayor. Now, none of us wanted to be hooked up to the sewer, but we were forced to hook up to the sewer. Township ordinance and state law. So I know after I met with you, the township had to hook up, because I see the patch in the road. Is that correct, Brian?
Yes, correct.
So evidently, I've already asked, did you have a lateral run across the street, or did you have to run a bullet across the street, put a tap and a sleeve on it to get that hooked up?
It was a unit pump station, hooked up a unit pump station with a low pressure tap to the force main.
So originally, what I'm trying to say, in the original plans from TNM, and because you had the Fox and the Hen House, TNM had no laterals run across the street. Also, the library is not hooked up. So if you hook the library up, you will get some more revenue. If you hook the schools up, we'll get some more revenue. Because I have here in front of me, from the state, it says, township runs the new sewer system for the entire town, but but the school has its own little sewer system. Does the school have to hook up to the sewer system? Yes, it has to hook up to the township sewer system. That's the law. So you got to decommission that little sewer system that's barely running for the schools, and you have to hook that up, and that'll be more revenue.
So the school is hooked up. I'm being told by the school that the library is connected to the pipeline that goes from the primary school to the high school. So the school is hooked up as of November. They hooked up. The plant's not decommissioned, but if you go out by the sewer plant, you'll see the patch in the driveway.
So you can show me where the hookup is and you can show me
Yeah,
how to print it?
there's a manhole. Because there's a go look out by the treatment plant, you'll see a manhole and a patch in the road. And that manhole is where the force main came from the school on North Main Street. They intercepted that. And then this whole campus runs from the primary school to that treatment plant. Everything was diverted to the MUA.
So everything's hooked up?
It is. It is all hooked up. Correct.
And the other thing, one of the schools is empty, correct? So, I mean, maybe if you sell that off, make condos out of it or something, you can then go hook up there too.
Cuso, 40 Churchill. This is real quick. I'm not an expert at looking at this budget, but anywhere in the 25 budget, is there funds for replacement and maintenance of the plant? Or are we going to, burn up a motor somewhere and not have any money for it?
So in the budget, and it's one of the reasons that you've seen the numbers increase, is that very good point. This is a very capital intensive system. And what I mean by that is pipes, pumps, grinders, these things don't last forever. They operate 24/7. We have 25, 50, 60, 70, 90, 140, almost over $200,000 in what has been deferred capital expenses in this operating budget, which is standard and customary. So this budget is not as austere as what you've seen in the past.
And was that in the previous 6-month budget and the previous year budget?
No,
before that?
no.
So some of this increase is getting back to what needs to be a quote-unquote normal budget with actual items that should have been in there.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Ma'am.
Tammy Watson, 21 Cedar Street. So the school is tied in. Does the school pay the commercial rate?
So the school, we're working on the rate itself, but the school is going to pay anywhere in the realm of 20 to 30 equivalent service units.
Does the school have the public water as well?
The school has public water, yes. At least I know this campus does. I can't speak to the other schools.
Okay, so at the end of the year, you'll be able to take the watering meter and you will be able to see the consumption of the school versus, so if I get it, 5% might be commercial, right?
Well, the school, let's say, for instance, hypothetically, the school would have to share that data with us, and we'd have to look at it. And when I look at the data, I'm going to go, oh, wow, that's a lot of water. And the school is going to go, oh, we have we use the water for various uses. Just because we're using it doesn't mean it goes to the sewer. Now, what makes the school different is that we know generally what the student population is, and they have a treatment plant that had a meter on it. So we know historically what the school's been flowing when it's in session. And there's multiple ways that you can come up with that calculation, but yes, hypothetically.
Fair enough. The only other question that I had was, when they began phase 1, and I imagine there had to be loans taken out to do the construction of phase 1, usually when you do that, you have to provide the information to the entity who's providing the loans that shows where you're going to come up with the money to pay for it back, how you're going to become solvent. And I imagine in that not only was phase 1 presented, but phase 2 and phase 3, because the bank would have known that in order for you to make enough money to pay that back, you would eventually have to tie in phase 2 and phase 3. So with that being said, was that not part of the initial loan that included phase 2 and phase 3? And if it wasn't, then how were you going to, because you weren't planning on making a ton of money off of this anyways. So there wasn't going to be like $5 million sitting in a bucket to pay for phase 2. Were you not still going to have to take a loan out to begin phase 2? And if that's true, then what's the difference? You didn't have the money before, you would have had to take a loan, you still would have to take it Why are we not moving forward with phase 2?
I can't speak to the phasing aspects of it. I just can't. I wasn't here. What I can tell you is that anecdotally, the infrastructure bank did not want to give this town the loan for phase 1 due to the socioeconomic analysis.
Okay, but when it was provided, was there any information provided that says if you provide these loans, we will eventually be making money off of look phase 2 and phase 3? Was that part of it? I mean, we have a lawyer, and he's got to know.
No.
That's operational.
That,
Pilot money pays for
I,
the sewer, and it's more than enough.
the pilot money, again, is under the township's control, has nothing to do with the MUA. We did not, the MUA did not take the loan for any of the phasing. That was done for and paid for by the township. So I don't really know the answer to your question.
Oh, okay, 'cause, the woman who worked in environmental asked about phase 2, when we were going to begin phase 2 so that we could start adding more residents. And the answer was there is no plan for phase 2 right now because there's no money for it. But I can't imagine there was ever going to be money for it outside of taking a loan out.
Ma'am, I'll apologize to you. I don't really have that information because that was all done before me. And I don't. I will ask.
So is there anybody who is going to be responsible for going forward? Like, I mean, the plan phase 2 and phase 3 still exist,
But
right?
I'm sure if you just wait 1 second, there's yeah.
Just, first of all, I just want to say thank you, especially to the MUA board, Executive Director Brock, Councilman Gutkin. Appreciate you guys coming out and doing the hearing. This is hard work that needs to be done, and thankful for your participation. Just to answer a couple more questions, I am aware that there was a rate study done back in 2014 that, I mean, it was astronomical what they said the rates would have to be for the sewer plant to just operate on the connections on phase 1 and to pay for its operational expenses. I think it was over $200 a month is what that rate study 2014 said. So that was part of the program, and the folks didn't know that. There is, what we didn't know was how quickly the, and by the way, before everyone blames me because I have a little knowledge of this, I was not involved.
He's late to the game too.
Just paid attention, okay? That's all right. And I think, Councilman Gutkin can speak to that as well. I was just paying attention in those days. And what the plan was to use the pilot money for these things. I mean, at some point, we have bond counsel that has told us that we will have an excess of $2 million in the township, an excess of $2 million of the pilot money coming in, more than we have in the allotted annual expenditures for the MUA. So when everyone saw those numbers, by the way, that those numbers released, I saw everyone's eyes turn to like dollar signs. And they stuck their hands out and said, oh, we did some of that money. But we have not seen any of that yet. We barely were able to anticipate any revenue from the pilot program last year. Hopefully we'll be able to anticipate a little bit more in the upcoming budget. But at some point, if you think about this, and I know it's so hard when you're in the difficult situation you're in, to kind of be patient for these things to work themselves out. But there will come a point when the pilot program will be profitable. And when you have a $7 million budget, which is what our township has, a $7 million budget, a $2 million excess of revenue it's a lot of money. And so it will be a good thing for the town eventually, and I'm not diminishing anyone's hardship right now. And nor the difficult decision you guys have to make. But if we can hang on, and you, okay, Executive Director Brock, you gave me a little talk about these things a while back. Not even on these side of things, but what the plan could be as far as hope for the future. I don't know if you can speak to that if you'd like to. Some people look like they don't know that. I served as mayor in 2024. I'm no longer in office, but I do live in the town. I care about everyone in this town. And Executive Director Brock, can you speak to that? Some of the stuff we talked about your hope of what things could be. I think maybe that would give some folks some hope.
I mean, it's kind of tough to have that discussion with what everybody's saying, but I am very bullish on the future of the MUA, like decades down the road. That's the problem. We're in startup phase right now. This first 10 to 20 years is going to be difficult, and you're all feeling the brunt of it. We feel you. This MUA, in whatever form it takes, is here in perpetuity. That plant's not going anywhere, and that plant will drive whatever the town wants to do with the opportunity, whatever that is. I don't know what that is. I don't have a crystal ball, but you have water, you have sewer, you can redevelop downtown. The high rates you know, they're an issue. We're all aware of it, but there is a lot of opportunity that this could create for you. If you build it, they will come. You have water and sewer. Environmentally, it's a home run. I will guarantee you over the next couple of decades, you see Oakford Lake turn into a pristine water body, because although the septics weren't flowing into the street, they were in some way, shape, or form getting into that water table directly into Oakford Lake. That's how they work. So you will see an environmental benefit, and there will be an economic benefit. I know nobody wants to hear it, but like when we're making decisions, although we're thinking about this year, and we need to do better modeling for future years, we're making decisions knowing that this entity is going to be around for the next 100 years. So it's tough to see what the end game is when you're in the thick of it, just knowing that sometimes you got to make the tough decision, knowing that it's the right thing long term. And it's a very much more long term than what people are used to, and that's where we have some conflict, I think, with our ideas. John, sorry, Mike. We just Mike, because we're recording. I need you in the mic. Yeah.
How would the town expect any more growth? How would we expect any more growth in this township if you're continuing to increase rates by 70%, and we have no assurance going forward that you're talking rates are going to go? Who is going to want to come here? What businesses or homes or people are going to want to come to this town when you guys asking for increases like this? So what you're saying is not making sense if you're looking out for the future of the town. If you want more people to come, then do the right thing now.
And I'll just say, the conversation I'm having, I'll completely disagree. When we tell people, and not just this town, other towns, if we regionalize a little bit, you will be surprised how quickly people want to build in this area. Although the sewer rate's high, it's relatively less affordable than anywhere you go. It's an absolutely beautiful town. It's a desirable area. The sewer rate's high. The sewer rate's not going to stop somebody from another county in North Jersey or Staten Island from moving to Plumstead. It's not. It's not. It's a beautiful.
Property increases, real estate property increases are going to cause a lot of people to probably leave the town and to come into the town. I'm just saying, I don't want this to be like Florida is, and the way things are starting, it looks like that could happen. With the high insurance rates and HOA rates, and then your utility rates, and the taxes going up. You have a lot of people that are retired, and you have to consider that. And if you want to grow, you have to balance it out. That's what I'm saying.
Jeff, if you could just wait 1 minute. We have a lady that has not spoken.
Hi, I'm Marvin Falke, 28 Keeneland Road. Thank you to everyone here. I moved in February, so this is all new to me. I'm part of Lennar, as some of us here are, and I'm blindsided. I had no idea about the sewers. And in fact, when we were purchasing, my husband and I, we were in Somerset County. We tried to get out of a place that high taxes, high sewer rates, high everything. So we came here. It's a beautiful town. We appreciate, everyone that lives here. But as John just said, piggybacking on his statement, who would want to come here if we're in a retirement community and the people that live in the town here, we didn't know this. The people of Lennar didn't know that the builder put this on the backs of the town people in downtown. So I hope that the residents in the center of town don't think that everyone buying in Lennar knew that this was going to occur. So someone a while back said the fox was let loose in the hen house, and the gentleman over there said that again, and that's what brought me up here. Council is here. I know you're not responsible for 2014, 2021, but who is? I mean, everyone's saying no one pocketed money, but is that a possibility? Did anyone look at that? Did the auditor go back and actually check where the money trail is of money that did come in?
Ma'am, I can only speak for us. The auditor has checked everything since we've been here.
Just
I can't speak for before. We're here 3 years now.
Are all of you residents
residents, by the way, that are using the sewer? And
Yes.
I'm not. So
I'm a meter, water meter, and sewer.
And are you comfortable with the perspective of rates going up?
I don't want the rates to increase, but I know from being part of this board and from seeing the numbers and understanding what needs to happen, I know that, we really don't have a lot of choices at this point. And we are doing many things. I mean, even earlier this week, I was at a meeting where we were trying to figure out ways to get more people tied in. I appreciate all of the comments that everyone is making, and a lot of those things are things that we are doing, and we're trying to watch the expenses, and we're trying to figure out where those other tie-ins are going to be coming in.
I can appreciate that. I understand about the tie-ins, but that's time, that's money.
It is.
That's who's going to be willing to take on that tie-in and pay an increased rate that's going to possibly go up every year? Who's going to elect to do that? I honestly, I have to say this, and I hope I don't insult anyone, I feel terrible for the people here that had to be forced onto the sewer system. And I don't want them to think that Lennar residents purchased with that knowledge. That is just, I have family who struggled. They came from another country. You hear this story all the time in politics. And they didn't get handouts. My parents worked 2 and 3 jobs, just to make ends meet. And for this town that I see now, because Lennar didn't tell us to go downtown, they told us to go shopping in Hamilton. So, shame on me that I didn't drive around and see that there is struggle here, great struggle. And then we're using what was the percentage, Brian, you said? We're
43%.
43%, so we're the majority. Again, it looks like, Lennar was let in and let everyone in downtown have to deal with this in addition to us. It just seems very inconsiderate and inhumane of people going back to 2014 to do that to the townspeople. Because I don't live that life now from working hard and getting a good education, but it's so sad to see this happening, and you're not going to attract more people to this town. Certainly myself or any other educated people, we're going to do our homework in the future. We're going to ask about what are the rates. And we weren't told. When I asked about sewer rates, $70, I was never ever told. And I just moved in March, closed in February. That is, to me, blindsiding. So I want to say that. And Brian, you said one salary. And can you tell me how much that person is earning?
Yeah, Tina, so it is our customer service representative, and it's under $20,000. I think it's $16,500.
And do you mind my asking? I don't know if it's public knowledge. So you work for the
Manasquan River Regional Sewer Authority, and they have a shared service agreement with the Plumsted MUA.
And that is obviously at a cost.
Yeah, that is $10,000 a month, and then Lakehurst is $4,275 a month, and they have all of the billing clerks, CFO, finance people.
And if I could ask counsel, that again, Fox in the hen house, is that a statement that has any validity to it?
We have, I heard that tonight, and I heard it, and it's easy to say that without any facts. I can tell you that there was an auditor in place every year for the Plumsted Municipal Utilities Authority. The MUA had absolutely no revenue, so there was nothing to take or steal or do anything else with for decades and until just very recently. So there was no revenue that the MUA had. They started the garbage collection, trash collection service. That's a straight pass-through. The bill is paid to the carter. The fees are collected, and then there's no profit made by the authority. There's nothing. There was one employee, a part-time executive director for many years. So anyone has facts that support that, I will tell you right now, I will gladly go with you to the county prosecutor's office, and we will find out if someone did any such thing. But tell me where and who, and we'll be glad to go do it. But there was no evidence of that That's been revealed through our audits over the years by the Plumsted MUA or Plumsted Township for that matter.
Well, as a few of the residents already asked, if that could be provided to the public.
What could be?
Information regarding
The audits,
all the money trail, the audits and the finances.
They're all online, but I'm sure the executive director will be glad to provide them, and they're all subject to Oprah and would be provided upon request.
You did say that. And Brian, you had mentioned you have 100 other things that are priority over this.
No, the rate structure. Nobody wants to listen to this. The rate structure, there is not an issue with it. You're not happy, but mark my words, when we do eventually do something with it, because it sounds like that's what will happen, people will not be happy. There are a lot of other things, such as the authority literally being out of business, being sued by multiple vendors, an operator abdicating our contract when this facility operates 24/7, 365, trying to figure out, like, okay, how are we going to extend the sewers without burdening this township and this MUA? Because people don't understand that pilot money is taxpayer money. The whole township's paying into this. It was alluded to. It's happening.
And I was told pilot money is actually for infrastructure purchased.
It could be. I mean, pilot money has its own account with the town. I don't know the details, but it's not. Pilot money is township money. It's in their coffers. In order to give us a subsidy, the money goes to them. It goes in their budget. It comes to us. So there are 1,000 things we've been doing, and like I said, we're not saying that the rate structure, it's not unfair. I disagree with people. I do not think it's unfair. It's standard and customary, meets the statute. Of all the other fires we need to put out, that's not the problem. Either way, you have 1,000 connections, you have to break up $1.8 million with those 1,000 connections.
And who's going to volunteer elsewhere in any other communities or along any of the other streets to say, oh yeah, I'm gonna come on board, I want a sewer and I want to pay 120, 160, maybe 300 next year. Who's going to volunteer?
well, it won't be a volunteer, it'll be through township ordinance.
And, okay, ordinances and then people having tax liens and then homes going up for tax sale. How is that going to better the community? How is that going to keep anyone here? How is that, like someone said, isn't that going to be a ghost town? My husband and I are already talking. We just moved here, like I said, in March, closed in February. We're already thinking about selling before it gets even more out of hand, and there's going to be so much less interest. Maybe, Brian, you're thinking Staten Islanders? Well, I lived in Bayonne where I grew up, and Staten Islanders are not going to want to pay $300 possibly years down the road every month for a sewer. I just, I really hope that every avenue is explored, and I know John keeps bringing up, and he doesn't even know me, just I've gone to meetings at the clubhouse. User rate, I'm willing to pay my fair share. I have, more fixtures than others. I think maybe that is the more fair way to go, and I would hope that you guys would consider, looking into that. Thank you for your time and, for your commitment, and I hope there's a better path going forward. And I always say God keeps good records.
Jeff.
Just a quick one. So I'd just like to address this gentleman's comments, and first of all, we're all in this together. Whether you're hooked up to the sewer system or not, we're all residents of Plumsted, we're all in this together to solve this problem. So that's the first thing. Second is pilot funds. Like I said previously, I'm a big picture guy. I know the pilot funds go to the township, and this gentleman is talking about, maybe we're going to get tired of the township subsidizing the PMUA. But pilot funds were originally earmarked, from what I understand, sewer treatment plant, to build a sewer treatment plant. And those funds, those monies are going into a bucket, a pilot bucket, and I presume what's happening is the bond payment is coming out of that bucket, and I don't know where the rest of it is going. I've got preliminary estimates from 2024 that there was $1.7 million of pilot funds from Venue, and 2.3 that came from Lennar for the hookups. Now, again, it doesn't all go to the PMUA. But that's $4 million, according to my calculations, that went to the township. So keep in mind that those are pilot monies that, the way I look at it, should be supporting the water treatment, the sewer treatment plant. So that was my first, and maybe you guys can clarify. And wait. My second is the priority list. I know, Brian, you're saying a lot of people aren't going to be happy if we go by usage. I disagree, and I think you should put it at the top of the list, because you'll get a lot more people here that they will be happy, actually. I mean, I'm okay if I have to pay more based on my usage, but I want to know, I want to pay based on my usage. I don't want to go to the department, I don't want to go to the supermarket and put, half a dozen eggs on there and then they're paying a flat fee for those eggs. I want to pay it based on what's on a conveyor. So, thank you.
Anyone else this evening?
I know this evening has gotten a little adversarial. I think there's a lot of animosity being thrown up on stage, mixed with healthy doses of fear and frustration from the residents. You asked that we don't blame you for the administration before you that put us in this awful situation to begin with, and that's fair. But what's also fair is treating us fairly. Now, your administration and your actions are saying, okay, well, this is what we have to pay. This is how we need to get out of the hole. The numbers are the numbers. What's not fair is saying, but if you don't, if you can't afford this, then we're going to fine you and put additional fees on you and cost you more money, and then when you can't pay that, we're going to take your house, and you're going to lose everything you've worked hard for your entire life. And if you think that's not fair, what's also not fair is calling tonight a hearing, but as soon as the last person who speaks sits down, you're going to vote in the new rate no matter what anybody said tonight.
Anyone else this evening? If not, I'll entertain a motion to...
Hi, Jeff Fowler, live at 45 North Main Street. Have we looked into entertaining possibly all these tankers that run up and down the road, servicing everyone who isn't hooked up to our sewer system? Can they be dumping into our plant and, get some funding out of that? It's just an idea that came up.
No, I believe we did look at that.
So the question has been posed to the MUA. We're not in favor of it for a very simple reason. Septic tanks are more solids than water, and it will foul the plant. And biosolids in the state of New Jersey and in this country, if anybody's heard the term PFAS, forever chemicals, they are a hot topic. It would cost us significantly more money to process biosolids at the treatment plant. It was not designed for that.
Thank you. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to close the public comment.
I'll make the motion.
Steve Grasso made the motion, and Ms. Chrisman seconded.
Ms. Crispin?
Yes.
Ms. Kimmick?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Grasso?
Yes.
Chairman Kubia?
Yes. At this time, we'll have commissioner comments, starting with Ms. Kimmick, please.
I do want to thank everybody for coming tonight and for telling us your views. Please know that we have our meetings every month, and a lot of these topics have been discussed and talked about, and we're happy to address any of those and talk about those things with you. This board and Brian have been working very hard to try to find different ways to get through these difficult issues. I'm a 25-year resident. I've been here from the beginning. I went to a lot of those early meetings, and the environment of Oakford Lake and the way that they've done it, those were hot topics back then. we know that this is difficult. I'm paying that same fee that you guys are paying when this increases. And I want you to know that they are really working very hard, that we are all working very hard to try to find different ways to improve this system and to tackle a lot of these big things. But I do want to thank everybody who came out tonight. Thank you so much.
Steve. We're stuck between a rock and a hard spot, and I really certainly don't want $160 rates because I pay them as well. I see Sebastian a lot because he lives right behind me. Unfortunately, we're bound by the New Jersey state law that we have to operate on a balanced budget, and the only source of revenue for us is through the sewer rates. And we hear you. We're doing, in the last probably 5 months, I've been at a lot of meetings with Brian and Mike Ruppel, who's not here this evening, to try to get help from a lot of people to see if we can reduce rates. And hopefully some of that comes through and we can expand the system and this will go. I would love to say that next year we hopefully will be at 100 hours, but I can't say that until we know where we are. So with that, we have to do a resolution to establish the trash and sewer rates and any corresponding revisions to the authority's rules and regulations.
Mr. Chair, just for the record, do you want to read in what the rates are before we vote on it?
The rate inclusive of the subsidy that has been graciously provided by the Plumsted Township Committee. Solid waste will be 1 time a week and recycling 1 time every 2 weeks, plus bulk 1 time a month is $110 a quarter. Additional solid waste receptacle is $25 a quarter. Additional recycling receptacle is $115 a quarter. Recycling only 1 time every 2 weeks is $50 per quarter. And the sewer rate with this gracious subsidy is $120 a month. You just brought up an interesting point. I did fail to say, because we're late getting these bills out because of this rate hearing, I believe we're waiving the late fees for the first quarter.
Late fees are waived, but to answer the question was for Mr. Lombardo, quarterly with the coupons, yes. So the $120 a month would be $360 a quarter with the annual sewer coupons that will be mailed the last week of January. So you'll probably get first payment's due February 1st. However, we're waiving all interest and late fees for the first quarter because all the billing got delayed because this rate hearing got pushed off 2 months. That's the easiest way to say it. So how about this? I would offer, if you want a receipt in that form or fashion, if you're going to pay it all at once, that you just schedule a time to come see me like you did last year. The only reason I say that is we have net total accounts, 2,100 accounts. The billing clerks from Lakehurst, I can't say that I would trust that they would sit there and know, oh, I have to give this particular resident a receipt. I'd be happy to do it for anybody that wants to, but I would say come see me if you're going to do that. I'm happy to do it. Just make an appointment with me. I'll even come after hours if that works best for you. If you pay online, you'll get a receipt. I'm not being coy either. If you pay online, you'll get a receipt. I'll be happy to give you a receipt if you meet me in person. Or you can pay online. If you do one payment and you use a checking account, it's a $1.95 fee. You can pay online, you can print out the receipt. Okay.
So what is the board's pleasure? Ms. Kimmick made a motion to approve Resolution 2025-01. Do I have a second?
I second it.
Ms. Crispin,
Yes.
Ms. Kimmick,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Grasso,
Yes.
Chairman Kubia.
Sadly, but yes. Motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Ms. Christmas made the motion, Ms. Kimmick did the second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? End of meeting is at 8:11 p.m.